The Age of the Mecha, Fists That Shatter Stars. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451 Dimensional Ascension. The Pluto Mecha was madly absorbing mysterious energy in the void cracks. The movement was so loud that it could not be hidden from everyone. However, the reaction of the Black Life quasi-god that Li expected, such as anger and suspicion, did not appear. Instead, the Black Life quasi-god showed obvious surprise on his face. Oh my god, this is the energy of the upgraded dimension being pried open. Among you humans, you can actually produce such a genius in this situation. When Yan heard about the upgraded dimension energy, her eyes moved slightly, and some dusty memories suddenly flashed in her mind, making her understand what the upgraded dimension energy was. She was surprised and said, "Sir, are you saying that the mysterious energy absorbed by Li is the upgraded dimension energy from the high-dimensional origin of the universe?" According to the understanding of the universe by the top masters today, the universe is a huge space-time field, which is differentiated from the higher-dimensional universe of the upper layer. The core that maintains the continuous growth of the universe and expands in all directions is the high-dimensional origin of the universe. This part is essentially beyond the current universe and is equivalent to core of the high-dimensional universe. The peripheral energy leaked from this high-dimensional origin is the upgraded dimension energy. This is a kind of energy that requires extremely strong space-time ability to use, and its essence is very strong. Just using a little bit can easily reverse space-time and create a large-scale space-time layer. In essence, this thing does not belong to divinity or divine will, but is a special energy that can be naturally generated by the universe. It can be said that if Li's prison suppressing divinity can successfully absorb a small part of it, it can undergo a great transformation. Black Life quasi-god looked at the Nether Soul Mecha and nodded slightly. "Yes, I didn't expect you to be quite knowledgeable and actually know what the dimensional energy is. Don't look at the dimensional energy that is full of this void crack, but it is not something that anyone can absorb smoothly. Even for me, for so many years, I can only continue to pry apart slowly to bless my current flesh armor. Being able to absorb so much dimensional energy to bless his own flesh armor is already something that Black Life quasi-god is extremely proud of. But at this moment, Li's absorption efficiency has obviously exceeded his expectations. Even the aftermath of such a large-scale prying has greatly benefited Black Life quasi-god. The other 7 demigod armored men behind him have not yet reached the point where they can absorb the energy of the ascending dimension, and have missed this opportunity. Even if they can absorb the energy of the ascending dimension, it is probably not much. Quasi-god Black Life secretly felt sorry. Although they are messengers of the God of Years, it is a pity that these messengers cannot major in the divinity of time. Otherwise, with the accumulation of time and space in this place, and their talents are not bad, how could it be so difficult to absorb the energy of the ascending dimension? It is purely because of their identity that they are good at their fields. However, although quasi-god Black Life is not a major cultivator of the characteristics of time, he has accumulated a lot after all. With the help of Li, the benefits are still not small. Looking at the slowly changing Pluto Mecha in front of him, there is also a bit more kindness in his eyes. But as time passed, quasi-god Black Life was shocked. He found that in just a short while, the energy of the ascending dimension that Li absorbed has exceeded his continuous accumulation of more than 10,000 years in the past. Although this is related to the fact that he is not a major cultivator of the divinity of time and space, he is the only quasi-god in the Black Life sequence. Beside him, Yan also sensed a trace of dimensional energy, which was actively flowing over and penetrating into her mind. As this trace of dimensional energy stayed in Yan's body and was digested, her temperament became more and more unpredictable. This slight change also attracted the attention of quasi-god Black Fate. Although Li had leveraged a large amount of dimensional energy, quasi-god Black Fate was already saturated at this moment. So he also took a break, his eyes turned, and observed the digestion of the dimensional energy by the other people. He created the way of Black Fate, which allowed him to observe the virtual image of the fate of others through their souls. After careful observation, he saw some differences. This virtual image of fate is a little familiar. "Are you quasi-god Lin Guotao?" When he saw through the situation in the Nether Soul Mecha, quasi-god Black Fate spoke in surprise. "Quasi-god Lin Guotao, this kind of person was actually revived successfully, and recovered to the realm of a 3-mark demigod. Doesn't that mean that Daohu's plan is about to succeed? Yan's heart moved slightly, and he said, I heard from a friend before that I am a human quasi-god from the end of the 5th era, but I have a memory disorder, so I don't feel anything. From what you said, it seems that you know me before. The Black Life quasi-god smiled and said, more than knowing, you are my disciple's grandson. How can I not recognize you? You are the daughter of Daohu. When you were 1 month old, I went to congratulate you and gave you a Black Life blessing. With my Black Life blessing, you killed many enemies who wanted to hunt down your human supreme successor. On the side, Tanyaozu couldn't help but say in his heart when he heard this. Yan's origin is so fierce. Although I heard Lin Jianlong say that she is one of the quasi-gods of mankind, I didn't expect that she is the daughter of the ancestor of mankind. This generation is really scary. Yan was also stunned for a moment, and her eyes were slightly stunned. I am so old? But why do I feel that I am still very young? After thinking for a while, she asked, may I ask the pavilion? Grandmaster, will there be any problems with my brother absorbing so much dimensional energy now? In Yan's cognition, although dimensional energy is a good thing, due to its high quality, even if a demigod absorbs it, there is a high probability that it will be indigested, which will greatly interfere with the body's condition. Therefore, if Li Yi absorbs so much, if it is an unconscious behavior instead of active control, it will be bad if he explodes after absorbing it. To be honest, a normal person would have exploded long ago if he absorbed it so wildly, the Black Life quasi-god pondered. Yan's face changed slightly. Then, however, your brother is not an ordinary person. I just looked at his destiny from a distance. Although there is a slight black gas covering his head, he is now a sign of a long rainbow of luck, with infinite rainbow light gushing out, which is very amazing. Black Fake quasi-god said, based on my many years of experience, when there is a black gas covering his head, there is still such a prosperous destiny. It is generally because he has accomplished some great things that are against the will of heaven and has formed a grand trend. Therefore, even if his fate may be ill-fated, he can still turn danger into good fortune and rise step by step. No, maybe it is not just one great thing against the will of heaven, but multiple things that change the fate of a super race and a super region, which will produce such a change. Otherwise, your brother might have died 2 or 3 years ago. Yan and Tanyaozu heard the comments of the Black Fake quasi-god, and they had their own thoughts in their hearts. Tanyaozu was surprised by what the Black Fake quasi-god said, that Li Yi himself was destined to be ill-fated. Yan was happy about Li Yi's crazy absorption of dimensional energy, and it shouldn't be too dangerous. Chapter 452, Skyrocketing. Just as several people were discussing Li Yi's transformation at the edge of the Void Rift, Li Yi's upgrade had also reached a critical moment. He could feel that the prison suppression divine nature had gradually become saturated. From the previous deep and colorful color, it turned into pure pitch black color. This color was different from the previous pitch black color. It was because the divinity itself had a strong light-eating ability, absorbing all visible and invisible light without leaving a drop. In addition, the extremely terrifying power of time and space was contained in the prison suppression divine nature. Obviously, the characteristics of the 3 celestial sequence gods were highly integrated again. Time and space and gravity, as well as the rich power of time and dimensional energy in this void rift, were all absorbed by the prison suppression divine nature and perfectly integrated together. Li Yi could feel that the prison suppression divine nature had been strengthened to an extremely terrifying level. As long as he moved his hand casually, even without the help of the divine Mecha, he could tear a huge space-time rift and create a space-time sandwich comparable to the scale of a starship. With a flick of his finger, without much effort, he could instantly change the years in the space-time layer, age the material, and change the world. As for reversing space-time, this is a little more difficult. But reversing the space-time of his own body is still possible. In other words, in addition to the air-suppressing membrane and the indestructible characteristic, he has added an extremely strong life-saving ability. Even if the body is catalyzed to the point where there is not even a nanometer precision dust left, he can still reverse it instantly and restore it to its original state. Of course, this is an active skill. It is necessary to reserve a reversal force in advance and replenish it every once in a while so that it can be quickly activated when death is triggered. Although it seems to have many restrictions, this move has the highest priority. Unless the universe is destroyed, or a strong man with space-time ability far exceeding his level discovers and quickly interferes, Nothing can destroy the activation of this move. Of course, if his indestructible characteristic continues to be superimposed and grows to the limit, the priority of the indestructible characteristic should be higher. But this is the later stage, and now it is undoubtedly the strongest life-saving ability to reverse space-time. The second is a trace of immortality, and the third is the space-time sandwich formed by the air-suppressing membrane. This is not the biggest gain of this transformation. The biggest gain is that after the prison-suppressing divinity obtains enough dimensional energy, it allows him to achieve a dimensional observation. Just now, his vision continued to rise, surpassing the countless subtle structures in the depths of time and space, and from a special perspective, he saw an extremely vast picture of the universe. How vast is this universe? The silent star field occupied by humans and the scorching star field occupied by the star family are just a small corner of this vast universe. But it is precisely because of the terrifying perspective under this dimensional vision that the amount of information he receives is also terrifying. In just a glance, his mind is about to explode. And he passively exits this state at a rapid speed. At the same time, in the depths of the dream plane, at this moment of glimpse, a large number of memory fragments suddenly appeared. Crash! It was as if a rainstorm of memory fragments was falling. All of these memory fragments were of deep color, and each one was comparable to a millstone, much larger than the memory fragments absorbed before. Boom! The dream plane was constantly expanding due to this huge amount of information. Extend, extend. In the blink of an eye, the area covered by the edge of the dream plane directly doubled tenfold. Woshi, Liu couldn't help but grin. I thought that the dream plane would never change in my life, but I didn't expect it to increase so much today. It seems that this upgraded vision is really terrifying. Fortunately, he has the dream plane to support him. If it were any other demigod-level powerhouse, or even a quasi-god, he might not be able to support so much information and would directly explode and die. Although Li Yi's current soul strength has not yet touched the demigod level, this toughness is based on the dream plane, which is not inferior to any top powerhouse he has seen. So many memory fragments are not absorbed in vain. Li Yi's vision casually swept those newly added memory fragments, and he knew that there must be a lot of amazing cosmic-level memories hidden in them. It was the kind of terrifying memory that reached the top of the universe, and could even see every corner of the universe at a glance. His innate ability was like this: whatever he approached, he would refresh the memory of that level. When he fell asleep in the space-time layer before, he refreshed a large number of space-time memory fragments that the demigod level and even the quasi-god level might not have. This time, even if he just glanced at the entire vast universe, it would not be much worse. This time, it was a rare dimensional perspective, looking down on the entire universe from a high-dimensional perspective that surpassed this universe. Liu even suspected that this was a supervision that only a true god-level strongman could have. In addition, there was a lot of growth in the divine genes. In just a short time, the divinity of the three sequences of Uranus, Gaia, and Pluto each increased to 1 core. This growth was the result of Li Yi's active guidance. After all, the divine genes involved in these three sequences overlapped and differed. Some were almost enough to make up 1 core, and some were not. The total number of pure growth was about 2.5 cores. Adding the previous 4.5 cores, it suddenly increased to 7 cores. So far, he has 2 cores of Thor, 1 core of Chang'an, 1 core of Gaia and 1 core of Pluto, half a core of Vulcan, and half a core of the rest. In terms of the total number of divine genes generated, it is naturally basically on par with the senior supreme Zhao He. After all, Zhao He currently has 2.5 supreme cores, which is equivalent to 7.5 cores. In terms of the total amount of divinity, the increase in the divinity of the prison is also on par with the senior supreme, who has undergone the heavenly increase and the supreme increase. There is no change in the physical body. But now the prison divinity has undergone a dimensional upgrade and has great power. I am afraid that forging itself at will produce a lot of transformation. Liu plans to develop a unique time and space body forging method for the prison divinity after he has time. Apart from other things, this immortal characteristic should be obtained through continuous body forging. It is also necessary to continue to develop various body forging methods to make the physical body more perfect. Moreover, in the cockpit, Liu sensed the internal operating mechanism of the Pluto Mecha, and was quite surprised. He was not surprised by the sudden increase in the height of the Pluto Mecha after the upgrade, Nor was he surprised that he could still clearly perceive the operating details of the Pluto Mecha. Although the above two were enough to surprise him. But what shocked him more at the moment was another wonderful driving experience. This went beyond the driving experience of being able to control the Pluto Mecha as if it were his own body, highly integrated. Obviously, this was also a special change brought about by the absorption of dimensional energy. He naturally also listened to the conversations of several people outside and understood what dimensional energy was. This time, by absorbing the dimensional energy, I seem to have cracked a limiter inside the Pluto Mecha. Is this the realm of man-machine unity, or some more magical change? Chapter 453 Divine Armor. Li Yu felt this unprecedented wonderful state, and suddenly a light bulb flashed in his mind. So that's how it is. It seems there is another way to use it. When he thought of this idea, he did not hesitate and activated it directly. In an instant, the upgraded divine power of the prison was directly stimulated, activating a certain characteristic device inside the Pluto Mecha, which was 485 meters tall in S-level extreme. Click. Immediately afterwards, the Pluto Mecha suddenly shrank in the shocked eyes of the people in the outer circle. The powerful force of time and space was stimulated by the Pluto Mecha and continued to flow on its surface. Every time it flowed, the Pluto Mecha shrank once. In the blink of an eye, the Pluto Mecha shrank to the same height as Li Yi at an astonishing speed. What appeared in front of everyone was a slender figure wearing a black thin armor. The outline of this figure vaguely showed the shadow of Li Yi. And the facial features of the mask were exactly the same as Li Yi. Everyone was shocked. What kind of operation is this? Shrinking this nearly 500-meter tall divine mecha to a height of less than 2 meters in an instant? Is this the conservation of mass and energy? No, the infinite divinity of the divine mecha does not follow the theorem of conservation of mass and energy, but even so, it usually grows taller and taller, so why is it getting smaller? However, although the height of the Pluto Mecha has been extremely reduced, everyone can clearly feel a more surging and fierce momentum than before it was promoted to an S-class Mecha. Just standing in this void crack, it can suppress countless space-time turbulences steadily. Zzz. In addition, as the Pluto Mecha shrank into armor and draped over Li Yi's body, a large number of lightning flashes appeared out of thin air in the void, constantly shooting towards the Pluto Mecha. These lightnings are not ordinary lightnings, but space-time thunders produced by the deep collision of space-time structures. A random chop can produce great power. It seems that the reduction of the Pluto Mecha this time has interfered with a large number of space-time structures in the surrounding void cracks, causing them to be unbalanced, and then attracted a large number of space-time thunders. However, the space-time thunder that could cause defense damage to ordinary S-class mechas with a casual strike did not leave any traces on the shrunken Pluto Mecha. Seeing this scene, several people were stunned and didn't know what to say for a while. This change has really surpassed everyone's cognition. Even the ancient strongman Black Fate, who survived from the first era, was knowledgeable and experienced. He sat in the ruins of the years and watched the changes of the times. He knew countless secrets, but he was shocked and speechless at this moment. After a long time, he managed to say a sentence with a trembling voice. It's actually divine armor. This is a top-notch method that can only be accomplished by the most special group of people. This is really, at the end, he couldn't even finish his words, and he was very out of control. Hearing the Black Fate quasi-god speak, not only Yen and Tanyaozu couldn't help it, but even the 7 demigod armored men behind him hurriedly asked questions. What is the divine armor? How can it be so much more powerful than the divine mecha? How can the divine mecha have such a device? All kinds of questions. Li Yu was also quite curious. Although he completed this operation with the help of the harvest just now, he also felt that the divine armor outside his body had strengthened his combat power several times more than when the Pluto Mecha was gigantic. But he was also really curious about what this so-called divine armor was. Quasi-god Black Fate sighed and said, "This is a long topic. To understand what divine armor is, we must first start from the beginning of the first era. As we all know, the armored people in the divine era first evolved from arthropods. With the development of time, they gradually gained wisdom and evolved hard external armor to defend against natural enemies. At that time, there was an explosion of biological life in the universe, and various races competed with each other. The mainstream was to cultivate the physical body or other energy-based systems, until a certain scholar discovered divinity by chance. From then on, the armored people were unstoppable, and the entire era completely turned to a civilization based on divinity. It continued to develop and span the interstellar space. It was quite powerful and was hailed as one of the top 10 powerful races in the universe at that time, and what was hailed as the crystallization of the highest technological civilization at that time was the divine Mecha. The strong man who invented the divine Mecha was called the Lord of Destiny. He was the top strong man in the universe at that time whose strength could be ranked among the top 5 in the entire universe. His strength, even in our later era, is still the top stream. However, in that era, there were many strong people. Although the armored people were strong, they only had the confidence of a strong race with the help of the Lord of Destiny. They could not stand alone. Without him, they were no match for other powerful races, those super creatures who were born with hundreds of meters, thousands of meters, tens of thousands of meters on their bodies, or even as majestic as planets, were the top races of the first era. Initially, the divine Mecha was a war weapon created by the Lord of Destiny to imitate his own body structure in order to defeat other competing races. The driver is the avatar of the Lord of Destiny, or his disciple. Among the disciples of the Lord of Destiny, there is also a top genius named Xingyu Federation. When he was driving the first version of the Mecha for a long time, he kept improving it, adding new designs, as well as various time and space imprints and time and space divine patterns. He superimposed more and more time and space divine patterns, and these biological mechanical mechas gradually underwent transformation. In addition, he invented a manufacturing method that stole the origin of the universe. In the end, the divine Mecha was completely formed into a super weapon that occupied the mainstream of later wars. The armored civilization has finally stood at the top of the universe with this weapon, and the divine armor is a backdoor left by the top powerhouses of the Destiny domination to prevent being backstabbed by their own race. The powerhouses of the Destiny domination, who also control divine mechas to fight, can instantly gain several times or even more than 10 times the combat power increase and defeat their opponents in one fell swoop as long as they activate the divine armor. You know, once a race has no external enemies, it will slowly turn to internal strife. In the late stage of civilization, the internal ruling structure of the armored people also had problems. Those who master the art of divine armor are called the armored saints, also known as the original saints. Other ordinary armored people, even if they can become quasi-gods or supremas, their combat power is still far inferior to that of the same level of divine armored people, or even the next level of powerhouses. The saints have the right to dispose of other powerhouses at will, and they have a long lifespan and firmly occupy the upper echelons of civilization. This kind of fierce class contradiction is too common in the late stage of armored civilization. The reason why I hid far away in the ruins of time was that I was tired of these internal struggles. I didn't expect that it would be a blessing in disguise and I could easily avoid a disaster. It was a blessing in disguise. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Liu was also surprised. It turned out that this was the origin of the original saints. Moreover, he had heard of the name of Xingyu Supreme in the ruins of the earth and the Guotao Divine Mountain. It seems that this supreme strongman has an extraordinary influence on future generations, otherwise the Guotao Divine Mountain would have specially recorded his experience in the battle as a trial field, right? After thinking about it, he asked, Sir Blacklife, may I ask if this divine armor is related to the long-lived physique of the original saints? Chapter 454, Overlapping Armor. Relationship? Of course it is a big deal. Quasi-God Blacklife smiled and said, you are now, most likely, a brand new God Armor Saint. Mastering God Armor is equivalent to transferring the origin of the divine Mecha to you. This is also equivalent to enjoying the scouring of your body by the origin of the universe. The God Armor is indestructible, the body is long-lasting, and the lifespan is greatly increased. How can it not be considered a big deal? Even as the God Armor continues, your genes will continue to mutate and maintain a subtle connection with the origin of the universe. Think about it, your descendants will also be affected by this, and their lifespan will also increase greatly. The reason why the God Armor Saints firmly occupied the top position in the first era is that they can use this to obtain a very long lifespan. Your ability is really enviable. If you maintain God Armor for a long time, your lifespan can at least increase by 100 times, 1,000 times, or even 10,000 times, and it may be more than that. At this point, Quasi-God Blacklife shook his head enviously. Hearing this, Liu nodded slightly. Not to mention, just like that, he really felt his vitality rising. Conservatively estimated, the lifespan has increased by at least hundreds of years. If he persists for a few more months, a lifespan of tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years may be within reach. However, The consumption of divine armor is not low. In just a moment, his prison-suppressing divinity has consumed 1%. You must know that his total amount of divinity is not low. This total amount is enough to fly for several months to control the divine mecha to accelerate in the universe. As long as there is no battle that requires extreme output, there is basically no need to worry about the endurance. It seems that he has to continue to improve the prison-suppressing divinity in order to maintain the divine armor for a longer time. In other words, if he has a higher understanding of time and space, it should be possible. In Li Yi's current understanding, the essence of divine armor is to control the space-time membrane inside the divine mecha that is connected to the origin of the universe to compress the terrifying divine energy contained in the divine mecha and realize the mass energy conversion of divinity. The higher the control power, the easier it will be to transform into divine armor. Speaking of which, every divine mecha is connected to the origin of the universe, so can divine mechas of different sequences be superimposed to become divine armor? Li Yi asked. Superimposed divine armor? Quasi-God Black Life was stunned for a moment. Isn't this idea a bit outrageous? I don't think I've heard of anyone doing this before. After all, it's already difficult to control one. But in theory, it should be feasible, Quasi-God Black Fate pondered, but I don't know the situation in this regard. After all, I just heard it from others. The era I live in is the end of the first era, and it has been a long time since the most brilliant era. Therefore, in my era, the contradictions between the God Armor Saint clan and other strong people have shifted and are not so big. Most of them are hiding. It is said that a strong person discovered the weakness of the weak flesh under the armor of the God Armor Saint clan, and specially practiced a kind of trick that can cause damage from a distance. And killed a bunch of new generation God Armor Saint clan, and the old generation of God Armor Saint clan has long been out of business. Therefore, when I knew about it, the God Armor Saint clan had already passed its most glorious time. Li Yi nodded slightly. With a living dictionary of quasi-God Black Fate, it is indeed possible to understand many secrets that have never been known. Compared with Lin Jianlong, the fifth era resurrectionist, quasi-God Black Fate obviously knows more. As for the repeated armor, Li Yi thinks it should be feasible. Apart from other things, the internal principles are not difficult. The main difficulty is the control of time and space. As for his progress in the control of time and space, there is no need to worry about it now. Just the memory fragments that were refreshed in the moment of the dimension upgrade, not to mention the many, as long as he can digest 10%, it is estimated that he can reach the realm of armor stacking. At that time, first upgrade the King of Heaven and Gaia Mecha to S level, and then stack them into divine armor. Then he will be equivalent to having the universe origin of these three sequences, and the godhood of the prison will inevitably undergo a huge transformation. Okay, don't stay in this void rift, let's go to the Suishan Palace first. There are many opportunities and treasures there. You humans have good comprehension, you can try your luck. As he spoke, the figure of the Black Life Quasi-God turned into a meteor and quickly flew into the depths of the void rift. The 7 demigod armored men behind him also quickly followed. Li Yi and others also followed behind. Except for Li Yi, who has transformed into divine armor and is less than 2 meters tall at the moment, the other several divine mechas are very conspicuous in this void rift. The divine flames are surging like tides, and the changes in light and color are extremely cool. During the flight, Tanyeozu asked in a voice transmission, Li Yi, can your so-called divine armor maintain this state? It looks very handsome, and your aura is much stronger. Tell me, how much has this divine armor enhanced you? Li Yi thought for a moment and said, why don't you try it later? I feel that in the divine armor state, a random punch can penetrate your cooperative mecha. Otherwise, Brother Tan, come and verify it for me to see if my idea is true. Tanyeozu's face was immediately sweaty, and he said, your pure physical body is almost comparable to a demigod, right? Without the divine armor, it is estimated that it can break the protection of my mecha that has not yet been upgraded to S level. Aren't you respecting me too much by practicing with me? Li Yi said regretfully, it's not mainly about you, Brother Tan. You want to know how much I have enhanced? To be honest, I have no idea. I need to test it in practice to know the specific effect. Okay, I said too much? Tanyeozu said speechlessly. In short, it's stronger than before. This is indeed very obvious. Your current breath strength is at least 7 or 8 times that of the giant Pluto mecha. Your breath is so much stronger, plus your mobility and the super pressure formed by the gathered power, your combat power performance must be at least 10 times stronger, right? Hiss, after you become a divine armor, you probably have a chance to sweep most of the demigods. This is just the beginning. The endurance alone is a problem. Liu shook his head. Although what Tanyaozu said did make sense, in terms of pure short-term defense penetration, the divine armor is indeed the strongest. As long as it is used properly, there is no need to worry about the endurance problem at all, because the enemy's divine mecha has already been easily penetrated by him. As he was talking, a towering triangular void island suddenly appeared in front of everyone. The island was very large, and its scale was about the same as the huge sunset they saw before entering the rift. Yan observed for a moment and said in surprise, "Is this the sunset we just saw?" Strictly speaking, no, Black Life Quasi-God said. You can simply understand that the sunset is the real body of Lord Sui Shin, and the Sui Shin palace in front is where he stores his consciousness. This entire void rift, strictly speaking, is considered a part of Lord Sui Shen's body. Damn. Several people were shocked when they heard this. Chapter 455 Introduction. What kind of existence is the God of Years? A true God, Tanyaozu couldn't help asking. Hearing this, the quasi-god Black Life smiled and proudly introduced, of course not, although Lord God of Years is very close to the realm of true gods to some extent, but he is not a true god level. That is a great existence that can truly touch the core of the origin of the universe and control it freely. Since the birth of our lost universe, there may be only one true god level strongman who has truly appeared. Whether it really exists is also an unknown. Anyway, I believe it has existed, although our Lord God of Years is strong. He is not enough to touch the true god. You can think of Lord God of Years as a prehistoric creature of the first era. It is a powerful existence that was born earlier than the beginning of civilization in the first era. He was born to manipulate time and has a respected status. Although he has not obtained the title of master, his strength is not weaker than the top masters. Hearing this, the doubts of several people about the God of Years did not disappear, but increased. Liu asked, Sir Black Life, how can this Lord God of Years live so long? Could it be that the ruins of time can block disasters? And then it goes into deep sleep from time to time, so it can live so long? Quasi-God Black Life shook his head and said, no, you don't understand. Lord God of Years himself is a prehistoric ancient creature naturally bred by this ruins of time. It can be said that although the sunset is its main body, the entire ruins of time is also its external shell. Its lifespan depends on the ruins of time, so, even if it has not obtained any title of master or even supreme, it still has infinite power. There are only a few ancient creatures like it in the entire universe. Generally speaking, it is still various intelligent creatures that continue to advance through the divine evolution system and prove the existence of the supreme and master. They are the top creatures in the universe, but due to the natural limitations of intelligent creatures, even if they reach the master level, their natural lifespan is at most a few million years. It is necessary to continue to maintain the conceptual body, or use other immortal things to prolong life and resist disasters. So, you can understand that Sui Shen is one of the greatest beings in the universe. Those masters may be stronger, but they will definitely not live longer than Lord Sui Shen. Several people were a little shocked. Masters can only live for 1,000,000 years, but Sui Shen is born with the entire ruins of time and has an infinite lifespan. I'm afraid only beings like Sui Shen can survive until the end of the universe. Liu asked, what about the original saints? Black Life Quasi-God shrugged and said, this is also a special existence in terms of external level. If it is the supreme being certified by the original saints, it is estimated that the natural lifespan is also hundreds of millions of years, or even more than 10 billion years. If you really have the opportunity to master the skill of stacking armor in the future, and stack several semi-god level divine mechas, you may have a chance to rival Lord Sui Shen. He didn't see the immortality of Li Yi. If he could see it, the estimate he gave would not be this number. However, Liu was in the state of divine armor at the moment, so he didn't have the opportunity to see this immortality. As he spoke, several people flew into Sui Shen's palace, the triangular void island. As soon as they entered, they all felt the very rich divine energy of the time and space sequence in the Sui Shen palace. Liu felt that the layer of Hades god armor outside his body was vibrating at a microscopic level, absorbing these divine energies. The consumption of maintaining the divine armor was actually replenished quickly. It even increased slightly. In this environment, it is very suitable for the divine armor to be maintained for a long time and increase lifespan. Liu estimated that even without the divine armor, just a physical body surviving in this place can increase a lot of natural lifespan. It seems that the reason why the Black Life Quasi-God can spend so many years here is probably related to the divine energy of time and space in the Sui Shen Palace. At this time, not only the Hades God armor, but also Lian Yang's Nether Soul Mecha and Tanyaozu's Zilu Mecha, all seem to enter the water, vibrating slightly and slowly absorbing the divine energy. They obviously also understood the special features of this divine energy of time and space. This is your first opportunity. If you, Li Yi, hadn't used that part of the dimensional energy, this opportunity would have been a very good gift for you, but compared to the dimensional energy, these space-time divine energies are much inferior. As a return gift, let me think about what to give you later. Quasi-God Black Life shook his head, recalling the changes brought about by the absorption of the dimensional energy. In just a moment, his soul, which was about to reach the end of its lifespan, seemed to have the vitality of sleeping for an era and then reviving. Quasi-God Lin Guotao, and that person, you just put the divine mecha in the vestibule in front of the palace, let them absorb the space-time energy naturally here, and your flesh can also come and soak it in person to feel it. There are great benefits. Quasi-God Black Life walked to a 30-meter-high archway and waved to everyone. Boom. 2 divine mechas slowly landed on the ground. Yang and Tanyaozu then popped out of the insertion cabin. When their bodies came to this environment filled with divine energy of time and space, their faces changed slightly. It was too rich. The vitality of the body was growing at a very obvious speed. They immediately concentrated their minds to absorb it. This was different from divine radiation, and it was energy that could be easily absorbed by the body. Quasi-God Black Life was very satisfied with their performance and nodded slightly. Then he looked at Li Yi and said with a smile, as the only super genius in the future who has comprehended the divine armor, I think it is necessary to invite you to meet Lord Sushin. If you're lucky, it may give you some secrets of the secret book of time, or other benefits. How about it? Do you want to go? Li Yi was surprised. Didn't you say that if we plot the secret of the secret book of time, our race will be destroyed? This is a different time, and that is a different time. Quasi-God Black Life shook his head and said, you have evolved into the divine armor Saint clan by your own strength, which shows that your understanding of time and space is already very high, far better than mine. With you like this, even if you are exposed to the secret of the secret book of time, you are not afraid of any major crisis. Crisis? What do you mean by that, sir? Is the reason you forbid us to obtain the secret of the book of time because this secret is very destructive? That's right, Quasi-God Black Life said, this is a divine treasure that can control the time and space of the universe without limit. It can be said to be a weapon of a true god. Any random manipulation will cause earth-shaking changes in the entire universe. I think you are also confused by its effect and don't know the harm. As they spoke, the two had already walked towards the depths of the Palace of the God of Years. Chapter 456 Magnificent. Quasi-God Black Fate and Li Yi gradually went deeper into the Palace of the God of Years. In short, you are now qualified to access the secrets of the secret book of time, and you are not afraid that it will backfire on our own universe. Does Lord God of Years have the task of protecting the balance of time and space in the universe? Li Yi asked in surprise. Logically, such a strong man should not care about the changes in the universe, right? You don't understand. The secret book of time is a true divine tool of such a status, even Lord God of Years cannot resist its power, Quasi-God Black Fate explained. However, his statement confused Li Sun even more. Since this kind of thing can even affect the God of Years, why is he willing to let the secret be passed on to others? Although the Black Life Quasi-God didn't see Li Yi's expression, he obviously guessed his thoughts and said with a smile, if you don't think about the future, you will have immediate worries. This secret will be exposed sooner or later, and Lord Sui Shen can't keep it secret forever. When the disaster comes, Lord Sui Shen will fall into deep sleep, and then he will leave our universe with the remains of time. Because although he is not afraid of disasters, the power of disasters has indeed become stronger and stronger after so many years of accumulation. This time, we must stay away from it as much as possible. By then, we may not be able to find the way back by our own strength. At that time, we have to find a reliable friend to recall the remains of time to our lost universe after the disaster is over. And the key item for recall is the secret book of time. In that case, why not entrust it to you? You are already a member of the Divine Armor Saint clan. If even you can't escape the disaster, then there is no need to stay in this universe anymore, don't you think? Li Yi was speechless. What the Black Life Quasi-God said made some sense. So, Lord Black Life will also leave our universe with Lord Sushin. Yes, that's the case. When will that be? It's hard to say. Maybe tomorrow, maybe 100 years later. It depends purely on Lord Sushin's mood. I only know that he will leave this era, but I don't know exactly when he will leave. Well, then Lord Black Life is very free. Alice, what is free? Since our group decided to hide in the ruins of time and become the messengers of Lord Sushin, we can't advance in this life. We can only say that our lifespan is longer, but there is no need to think about pursuing the highest realm. When the quasi-god Black Life said this, he laughed. Anyway, this is fate. My black fate has long determined that my upper limit is limited to this, unless one day I can comprehend time and space and combine the three divine natures of time, and years into one, and can reverse time, then I can change my original destiny. Hearing this, Li Yi's heart moved slightly. Can you change your fate only by reversing the future? But what about the situation when I heard from the black fate quasi-god that I had changed my fate of being covered by black energy? Excuse me, sir. You said before that my fate was covered by black energy, but later it became a sign of long-lasting luck due to various factors. What is the situation? Hearing this, the black fate quasi-god sighed slightly and said, because you have done many things against the will of heaven, your luck has been reversed. This is also a way. But I am different from you. When I studied the way of black fate and reached the highest level, it was too late. My luck was completely black. If I had found a trace of it before my luck was completely black, and maintained it and continued to cultivate it, I would have had a chance to continue to break through. As for now, I can only look forward to the more difficult and elusive solution of reversing time and space. Li Yi understood. It seems that the so-called things against the will of heaven are probably related to the God-suppressing prison, the Enlightenment Mountain, the heritage ruins and other things. But the most critical thing should be the invention of the bodybuilding method. He still had a bottom line in his heart. Among the many events he had experienced so far, perhaps only the bodybuilding method could be regarded as truly unprecedented and unique. This was a special method that could only be completed based on his multiple conditions. At present, except for him, no one else could achieve his level in the bodybuilding method. As they were talking, the number of free thoughts around the two of them gradually increased. It had reached a powerful level that could be seen by the naked eye. Li Yi swept his eyes and observed these thoughts, secretly smacking his lips. My goodness, any free thought was much larger than the mysterious thoughts he had encountered in the heritage ruins before. The so-called one of the greatest existences in the universe was indeed not in vain. This level of thought strength could directly blow up a strong man of the high level of the heavenly position. It was a pity for Li Yi that after the dimensional enhancement just now, his soul strength should have touched the threshold of the demigod level. But the breakthrough of the demigod boundary and the birth of the immortal soul characteristic that he expected did not happen. Now seeing the thought body of the god of years and feeling the influence of this thought body on the external environment, he vaguely grasped something. Other conditions should be required. The mind body of the god of years did not obtain the immortality. It seems that the immortality of the soul may not be that simple. Does it need to create a true, divine and heaven-defying method like the bodybuilding method? If that's the case, then I might be able to start with memory fragments. The vacuum purification method I learned before is good, but it's still a long way off. While thinking, Li Yi followed a black life quasi-god and came to a deep pool where mind bodies gathered. It was a two-dimensional water surface located above the void, without any cracks, but like a clear mirror. Above the water, a large number of transparent mind bodies as thick as sharks slowly rose up and then spread out to the periphery of the god of years palace. Hula! A mind body brushed past Li Yi's ears and swept to the far end. There was another huge mind body like a whale, which swam in front of Li Yi and stirred a lot of void. Immediately afterwards, a large number of magnificent and vast images were generated in Li Yi's mind at the same time. His heart moved slightly. These vast pictures, with a high amount of information, allowed him to see the scene of the birth of the universe. Don't be nervous. This is a gift from Lord Sushin to you. Lord Sushin said that this is the initial picture of the universe he witnessed in the early days of the birth of the universe. You are proficient in time and space abilities. You should gain a lot from seeing these pictures. The voice of the quasi-god Black Life sounded in Li Yi's ears. Li Yi subconsciously glanced at the dream plane, and saw that a large number of time and space memory fragments were indeed swiped out in the dream plane. Although these memory fragments were not as many as those gained during the previous dimension upgrade, they were also extraordinary. In a short time, The dream plane, which had already expanded to an extremely wide extent, was widened a little more. A large number of newly added memory fragments were also suspended in various places on the plane, filling up the cracks in the ground. So many, when should I digest them? This is really a happy trouble. Chapter 457 Deduction. Well, these things should be of great help to you in accumulating your knowledge of time and space, right? Quasi-God Black Life said with a smile. Do you know how I practice the way of Black Life? Li Yi's heart moved slightly, and he asked, did I also see the picture of the birth of this universe? Exactly. Quasi-God Black Life looked emotional. It's also because I met Lord Sui Shen too late. If it was earlier, I'm afraid I would be a supreme being, or even a master level now. Lord Sui Shen has given you this memory seed. You have 3 chances to read it again. Now, let's go to see Lord Sui Shen. As he spoke, Quasi-God Black Life stepped forward. Li Yi followed. Hula. A large number of fish-like thoughts came and passed by. The light in front became deeper and deeper. A magnificent voice rang in Li Yi's ears. How magnificent this voice was, like a huge bell, ringing in his ears. This voice obviously has no meaning, but when Li Yi heard it, he seemed to hear countless meanings. There were friendly, welcoming, introductions, and all kinds of information, and the complex life state of the god of Sui was interpreted. Li Yi understood in an instant what form the god of Sui existed in the world, and instantly knew that this was the unique way of communication of the god of Sui. The magnificent voice contained a huge amount of information, but it moistened his mind in a gentle way, allowing him to understand the meaning of the god of Sui without translation. This method has reached a high level of being able to conceptualize knowledge at will and force people to understand. You know, the underlying cognitive differences between living beings are huge. No matter how great the ability is, it is not easy for 2 living beings with huge differences to understand each other. It can only be translated by accumulating language materials. But translation will inevitably lose some original information. The information transmission efficiency of conventional oral language is not high in itself. This is just a convenient and commonly used method, but not the most efficient method. Humans themselves have invented various information encoding methods that can transmit a large amount of information instantly. But this still requires the formulation of encoding standards to complete rapid translation. However, the god of Sui obviously has a brilliant method of transcending information encoding and forming knowledge and information into concepts. If translation is to make oneself understand others, and the ability of Sui Shen can force others to understand oneself, regardless of race, strength, or intelligence. This is equivalent to the exclusive and super version of the ability of thought stamp. Once used for evil, ordinary creatures can't even resist. Fortunately, Li Yi felt that Sui Shen had no ill intentions, and the languages released before were just basic communication. Of course, if Sui Shen really had malicious intentions, Li Yi could only rely on the dream plane to resolve it. But no matter what, in addition to the powerful divinity of time, Sui Shen must have mastered the conceptual characteristics related to knowledge. And this is also a method that Li Yi has never seen since his debut. Knowledge is divinity, knowledge is characteristics. This height makes Li Yi know that his previous judgment of Sui Shen was a bit preconceived. Before listening to the description of the Black Life quasi-god, Li Yi thought that Sui Shen was a special existence with low wisdom and mastered the characteristics of time by physical instinct. Now it seems that Sui Shen's wisdom is obviously not inferior to other intelligent creatures. No, it should be said that the wisdom of Sui Shen has surpassed most intelligent creatures and stood at the height of the universe. This is not just explained by strong brain power. It is like the perspective of dimensional upgrading that Li Yi had briefly felt before. This is a high-dimensional thinking of all aspects and realms. Moreover, the special language mastered by Sui Shen is inconsistent with the mainstream language of any era. Some sentences have divinity, and some have their own characteristics, which are very special. At the same time, a large number of special characters appeared in Li Yi's mind, which corresponded to Sui Shen's high-dimensional language with high information content. Li Yi savored it for a while and understood it. It seems that this is the prototype of divine technology. The language that Sui Shen is born with is probably a language that can directly control the origin of the universe. Yes, Li Yi named it the original language. Divine technology is mostly the early strong who learned some of the essence in the communication with Sui Shen, mastered it, and derived it into various technologies. The creation of divine mecha by the Lord of Destiny probably started from here. Divinity itself is a byproduct of the original language interfering with the origin of the universe. The divinity of various sequences is probably the attribute distinguished by the different energies and properties generated by the original language. As the Lord of Destiny completely perfected the divine mecha and seized part of the origin of the universe, from then on, the divine mecha had unlimited divinity. The evolutionary system of the entire universe was also affected by this shortcut and was all changed to a divine system. In an instant, Liu combined all his previous experiences and the brief communication with the god of Sui in the original language, and figured out a lot of the operating mechanisms he had previously comprehended from the divine mecha, as well as the ins and outs of the development of divine civilization. At the same time, his mind was also caught up in the deduction of various previous memories and experiences. I see, according to quasi-god Black Fate, there should be a few prehistoric ancient creatures like Sui Shin left. These species may be born with the ability to master various types of original languages. Original languages are the starting point of divine civilization, and divine armor and conceptual bodies are one of the highest skills of divine civilization. If you fully master these two techniques and continue to advance, you will become the top powerhouse of divine civilization. However, since divinity comes from prehistoric ancient creatures such as Sui Shin, the strength ceiling of the masters of divine civilization is only on par with Sui Shin. Reaching the limit of Sui Shin, this is the core reason why so many masters and supremas have been unable to break through to become true gods, because their ceiling is Sui Shin. Sui Shin's realm is already very close to the origin of the universe. If you do not exceed the limit represented by the original language mastered by Sui Shin himself, you will inevitably not be able to achieve immortality and true god through the means of divinity. It seems that the immortality of divinity that I deduced before should not exist in this realm. Divinity itself is not something that is born with intelligent creatures, so naturally there is no such thing as immortality. The only things that can pursue immortality are the soul and the body, or one more thing, genetic immortality. In other words, only when divinity is completely upgraded to dimensional energy, or a higher level of original energy, can it be considered immortality. Then, what should I do in the future? Chapter 458 Study. It seems that in terms of divinity, in addition to continuing to improve my cognition of time and space, I can also start from the decryption skills. If the decryption skills are further sublimated and reach the point of deciphering everything, then there may be a possibility of surpassing the original language. The original language mastered by the God of Years is itself only a language formed based on his specialness. As for the present, I should first find a way to master the original language and reach the level of the God of Years. Those masters, although their realms are high, do not have the talent like me to absorb the memories of parallel worlds. A series of thoughts flashed through his mind. Liu learned the original language of the God of Years and tried to communicate with him. As long as there is enough experience in communication, enough related memory fragments will naturally appear in his mind. The life level of the God of Years is very high, and Liu can learn a lot from any sentence. Moreover, due to the expansion of the dream plane, many memory fragments have been refreshed, and coupled with the current strong soul, he can directly absorb memory fragments even if he does not enter the dream. Therefore, as he quickly absorbed these fragments, his original language immediately became proficient. Not long after, Liu gradually entered a wonderful language state. Every word and phrase seemed to contain great power and the truth of the universe. The God of Years did not show up, but his mind-body was deep in the God of Years palace, flowing everywhere, receiving feedback from Liu's language, and was also a little surprised. This little life form, the realm is not bad, it can actually keep up with his thinking that is about to be successfully upgraded. Quasi-God Black Life watched from the side. At first, he was a little proud, thinking that only he could understand the God of Years after years of accumulation and understand his many difficult words. But gradually he was shocked. How could Liu's learning efficiency be so fast? How long has it been? And he has gradually mastered some of the essence of this language. Listening to the communication between the two, he gradually immersed himself in it. Intoxicated. Like hearing the music of heaven. If a quasi-god without a foundation were to listen to these, he would probably only think that this is just a mysterious language that is a little special, difficult to understand, and can evoke changes in the universe. Difficult to understand, very obscure. But quasi-god Black Life has such a deep foundation that although he can't keep up with it completely, he gradually feels that he has learned a lot. In the blink of an eye, time passed. As a prehistoric creature that controls time, Sui Shen was born almost at the same time as the universe, so he naturally didn't care about the passing of such a tiny amount of time. At this moment, quasi-god Black Life knew that he had encountered an opportunity that would be hard to come by in this life, and he was also wholeheartedly, without any relaxation. He was tense and tried to understand more. At this moment, Li Yu also felt that the opportunity was rare and he could boldly learn from such a great existence. Under normal circumstances, if he hadn't been led by quasi-god Black Life, he would definitely not be able to communicate with an existence like Sui Shen. After all, Sui Shen's realm has long surpassed most lives, and his vision has long been beyond the corner of the universe. In his eyes, Li Yu and quasi-god Black Life are probably just a larger ant. The difference between these two people and other ants is that one can understand him quickly. The other is pious enough to him and will do many trivial things for him. In this way, 3 days passed quietly. Outside Sui Shen's palace. Although Lin Jianlong and his companions found that Li Yan had lost contact, they had no way to find Li Yi and his companions for the time being. Because they had already found the traces of the 3 Zivu-level strongmen of the Star Clan and started to fight hand to hand. Above the vast water pond with extremely strong space-time distortion force and the ruins of time, 6 divine mechas were colliding rapidly. Boom. 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 The violent divine flames collided with each other, stirring up large areas of shock waves, sweeping everywhere. Most of the water and grass fields around the ground were razed to the ground. Only the surrounding area of the water pond easily resisted all kinds of shock waves, and flashed a series of distorted space-time ripples, which were reflected in the opposite direction. Bang! After all, Lu Yansheng's Sea King Mecha had never been upgraded, and was hit by the strongest trick of one of the S-level wave ray mechas of the alien god sequence, and flew backwards. This retreat directly encountered the space-time recoil from behind, and was directly penetrated by the space-time ripple. Buzz! In a flash, the armor shell of the Sea King mech, which was still clean and shiny, showed visible signs of rust. In another blink of an eye, the thick shell rotted and disappeared, revealing the biological appearance of the Sea King mech's outer armor. Like a prawn that has shed its shell. Even the various huge biological fiber bundles on the outer periphery of the biological mechanical body quickly broke. Swish! Lu Yansheng burst out with divine will, using divine will to stimulate the Sea King mech, trying to break away from the ripples of time and space, thus preventing the shell from continuing to decay due to the erosion of time. Fuck. These guys can actually use the time book proficiently. In the cockpit, Lu Yansheng was beaten without any power to fight back, and he was angry and cursed in his heart. After so many years of debut, this is the first time he has been crushed to this extent. The 3 book level masters are all veteran gold masters with 3 perfect cores who have never had the opportunity to be promoted to demigods. In the last Star Clan War, they did not show up and stayed in Changyang Star. If they had not found some secrets of the time book, they would probably continue to hide there and wait for an opportunity. This time, they added the time book to bless the divine Mecha, and their combat power increased greatly. Therefore, in the battle, except for Lin Jianlong who quickly suppressed the opponent, Xiao Pingchuan and Lu Yansheng could only barely maintain. They could only delay until Lin Jianlong quickly solved the opponent and came to help. The battle has entered a white-hot stage. Outside the Sushan Palace, Yan has long been out of the state of absorbing the divine energy of time and space. Unlike Tan Yaozu's coordination characteristics, Yan's soul characteristics are actually very low in correlation with the time and space characteristics. The reason why she was able to generate 3 traces of time and space engravings in one breath was purely because of the help of Li Yu's air-suppressing membrane. So even if she is at a higher level, she has almost reached the limit of absorption. But this time, she still gained a lot and made progress in all aspects. Apart from other things, the 4th time and space engraving in her body has already taken shape. Whereas my good brother, Flame Eyes, was agile, searching around the periphery of the palace. She wanted to go deeper into the Sushan Palace, but there was an extremely strong aura in the depths that made her feel uncomfortable. So, she instinctively resisted this action. But after searching for Li Yi for a long time, she couldn't find him. The quasi-god Black Life was not there, and the other armored men didn't know where they were. After hesitating for a while, she decided to go over and take a look. She stepped lightly and moved forward slowly. However, before she went deep enough, she heard a roar like the avenue of the universe, which came over and shocked her. It's his voice. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459 Breakthrough. After realizing the importance of deciphering skills, Li Yu absorbed the memory fragments of the original language while absorbing the related fragments of deciphering skills. Theoretically, any skill can break through to the level of God's will. It's just that some are difficult and some are simple. Deciphering skills are often difficult to practice to a high level because the scope of implementation is relatively narrow compared to fighting skills and divine control, and it is difficult to touch the essence of the universe. But on the other hand, once such skills can be sublimated, the effect that can be achieved will also be outstanding. Especially when Li Yu realized that the origin of the universe can be mobilized using the original language, he knew that everything can be a language. The strongest language is the content represented by the origin of the universe itself. Deciphering the origin of the universe is equivalent to mastering the origin. This is his way to prove the truth. Next, he only needs to sublimate the skills to the conceptual ability in this direction, and he can build a set of his own original language. Then, he can practice his own energy immortality. The essence of divinity is still a kind of original energy. It is difficult for divinity to achieve immortality because divinity is only a byproduct of the origin leaking into the world. Although it is convenient, the ceiling has already been determined. After that, as long as the immortality of the soul is gathered, the three immortalities will be combined into one, and it is estimated that there will be capital to advance to the true God. As for the immortality of the soul, I am afraid that I have to seek it from my own dream plane. Li Yu's deduction is clear at this moment, and he has completely understood his next path. As for the 12-core divine nucleus, which is halfway through, of course it needs to be taken. Taking this road will not limit himself. This is the road he came from, and it is the resource for him to become stronger in the future. Other strong people who took this road, until they were quasi-gods and supremas, could not practice the immortality because they did not achieve the extreme of one of the three, body, soul, and energy. At this moment, Li Yu's body has already stepped into the road of perfection and extreme. Whether it is genes, cells, internal organs, or external muscles and bones, they have all been tempered to the extreme, and they have been completed to a limit using a variety of bodybuilding methods. This is where he is superior to other strong people. The various bodybuilding methods he created are his core competitive capital in the future. Now, as long as he completely learns the original language of the God of Years and upgrades his deciphering skills, he can master another part of the core capital. This time, meeting the God of Years will be the biggest opportunity since his debut. In these 3 days, he has made remarkable progress. Maintaining the 2.0 brain superlifting technique throughout the whole process, the continuously growing brain power allows him to quickly digest and absorb these memory fragments like a whale swallowing water, and quickly master the original language of the God of Years. Thanks to the immortality of the flesh, he now has almost no bottleneck in the growth of brain power. No matter how the brain cells grow and expand, they are very difficult to destroy. Therefore, this is the main reason why he can make rapid progress without rest in 3 days. Otherwise, with his current small physique, even if the flesh is completed, the strength can be comparable to that of the divine Mecha, but in terms of life scale and rank, it is naturally far inferior to the God of Years, and it is difficult to keep up with the original language of the God of Years, which is constantly deepening the difficulty. In these 3 days, with the help of the original language of the God of Years, he has a lot more understanding of the characteristics of the years. Combined with the memory fragments that were refreshed in the previous dimensional vision, the perception of time and space has increased a lot. The soul has increased to more than 300. At this moment, the biggest gain is the decryption skill. After reaching the peak of perfection for a long time, it finally ushered in a breakthrough. This breakthrough is both natural and sudden. Because this is the first time that Li Yu has practiced skills other than fighting and divine control to perfection. Boom! While communicating with the God of Years, a roar seemed to sound in his mind. In an instant, all the relevant knowledge about decryption, language, information, and even various divine technologies, original languages, etc. in his mind was completely integrated. In the torrent of countless knowledge, he grasped a core line. This line crisscrosses multiple disciplines such as decryption, information, and language, like a giant tree, connecting many branches of knowledge. In an instant, he realized the true meaning of this new realm. Everything can be encoded, and language is encoding. Encoding is information. Information is the abstract expression of everything. The realm above the perfect deciphering is to instantly identify the coding rules, instantly decipher the internal logic of the coding, and instantly decipher the real information corresponding to the coding. At this step, when he sees a stone, he can decipher the composition information of the stone. When he sees the universe, he can decipher the composition information of the universe. All of these are knowledge. Whatever the eyes can see, what the ears can hear, what the hands can touch, what the nose can smell, and what the heart can reach, all matter and all abstractions can be quickly understood and translated into knowledge. He called this realm the realm of all translations. Everything can be deciphered and translated into knowledge. And the information loss can be minimized. This is still 1 or 2 levels away from the conceptualization of the information of the God of Years, forcing others to understand it. But it is a solid step for Li Yi to move forward. He also deduced the realms after that. They are the unity of knowledge and action, which is the cognition of knowledge and personal actions, and the current conceptual knowledge realm of the God of Years. Knowledge can be forcibly conceptualized and given or taken away at will. For example, Li Yi knew that once the God of Years wanted to, he could extract a piece of knowledge or a skill system from an intelligent creature at any time, so that he could no longer master this part of knowledge and skills. This terrifying realm, I am afraid that even those powerful masters may not be able to surpass it. After all, the God of Years has too many time advantages. The natural lifespan that other masters have earned through their lifetime efforts is only the time it takes for the God of Years to fall asleep once. If you want to surpass the God of Years, you need to create a language that can perfectly control the origin of the universe. In Li Yi's deduction, this level of realm should be the realm of the concept of all things. All matter, all cosmic changes, and all abstract concepts are transformed into concepts and used by him. This step is difficult. But Li Yi knows that he must challenge this difficulty. Because if he can't pass this level, he will most likely not pass the super disaster accumulated in the next 6 eras. Of course, the method of stacking God armor should also be a feasible way. But he will naturally not put all his eggs in one basket. In order to deal with a future terrible catastrophe, he must strengthen himself in all directions, until he can ignore the disaster or even resolve it. At this moment, as he broke through the realm of 10,000 translations, his understanding of the original language also increased, surpassing it by a lot. Then, in the surprised glance of Sui Shen, he opened his mouth and uttered the original language that he had mastered more clearly. Boom! The moment he opened his mouth, Sui Shen's palace emitted a huge roar-like resonance. The sound instantly spread throughout Sui Shen's palace. Yan, who was walking, also heard this sound, and his body resonated magically. AWW. Sui Shen's body was directly awakened by this original language that was like the sound of the avenue. Chapter 460 Destruction. The huge sunset hanging to the west of the ruins of time suddenly stretched out its limbs that blocked out the sky. A pair of giant feet as big as Mount Tai stretched out, reached down, and landed with a bang. Bang! Starting from the landing point, a super strong shock wave that was enough to destroy everything suddenly rose up and spread in all directions. At the same time, the deep in the palace of the God of Time was also continuously transmitting shocks outward. The entire ruins of time also emitted extremely strong vibrations at the same time. This vibration was not a regular material tremor, but a super strong shock from time and space to matter, from the void to the present world, and everything in the ruins of time. Boom! In an instant, the space and time where the entire ruins of time were located collapsed directly. Countless space and time cracks, like broken glass, extended everywhere and spread to the surroundings. Above the void of the universe, powerful space and time shock waves opened outward like waves. More and more space and time collapsed. Gradually, there was a tendency to develop into a great collapse. The so-called Great Collapse is a space-time collapse event at the level of an entire star system, which is enough to involve a range of several light years. Its impact intensity and scope are comparable to the formation of a black hole after a supernova explosion. For a time, even the humans who launched the war observed this super-strong space-time fluctuation on the border star. Of course, the current instruments of humans cannot detect space-time fluctuations. But they can use the surrounding quantum changes to infer what happened to Gao. At this moment, in the ruins of time, Lin Jianlong and the three Zebu strongmen who were fighting fiercely were also disturbed by the internal shock and had to disperse. Lin Jianlong's opponent had already suffered heavy damage, and only needed 1 or 2 more moves to be killed. It must be said that this shock saved this Zebu-level strongman. But fortunately, both sides were equal. Lu Yansheng also took advantage of this opportunity to have a breathing space. Otherwise, even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured for a long time. Xiao Pingquan's situation was better than his, but not much better. It can be said that these 3 Zebu-level masters have been able to effectively exert the blessing effect of the space-time Zebu on the divine Mecha. When launching some of the strongest tricks, the acceleration effect is very outstanding. This vibration is really terrible. Could it be caused by Li Yi? After taking a breath, Lu Yansheng inexplicably thought of Li Yi. With his understanding of Li Yi, it seems that it may not be impossible. After all, there is nothing big happening in the ruins of time. Otherwise, how could Li Yi come in a few days ago and such a thing happened not long after he lost contact? The variables are nothing more than how many people are there on Li Yi's side? Compared with Yan and Tan Yaozu, Lu Yansheng believes that it is Li Yi. The God of Years completely awakened this time, although he was a little confused, causing great damage to the interior of the God of Years ruins. But he naturally understood what happened very quickly. And through the mind-body that communicated with Li Yi before, he quickly understood what happened. Immediately afterwards, he realized that something extraordinary had happened in the God of Years palace. Not only in the Suishin palace, but even outside the ruins of time, it seemed to be shaken by the highly completed original language, generating a huge storm in the space-time level. This was no small matter for Suishin, who is magnificent and span billions of years. He realized that the little life form seemed to have completely learned the essence of his gifted language. Only this kind of gifted language that has been mastered to the deep essence can have such a great impact on space-time. No, not only mastery, but also innovation. This surprised him. You know, in his endless years, he had also come into contact with other top-tier masters. These masters all possessed vast wisdom, profound insights, and earth-shaking cultivation. But these people, in their understanding of time, were all empty to Suishin. They could only start from the areas they were good at and get as close to the reality of time as possible. Suishin was extremely disappointed. After all, they still had the knowledge of ants. If you don't live long enough, how can you see the long time? How can one touch the truth of time when fate limits him? The barrier of knowledge and insight is as big as a mountain. How can it be easily bypassed? The more he communicated with them, the more the God of Years lost interest in communicating with these so-called strong men who imitated him. Without transcending his rut and learning from him repeatedly, how could he be inspired? But today, he saw a glimmer of different possibilities. The original language that Li Yi revealed this time was certainly learned from the God of Years and was born from the God of Years. But as he comprehended the realm of all translations and the truth that knowledge is coding and coding is information, he also understood his own original language. Although he could not have the infinite power of the God of Years. But precisely because of the countless fragments of time and space memory he had absorbed in the past, and even various fragments of knowledge memory, this original language, when used by him, could burst out with such terrifying power. The moment he spoke, he shook the palace of the God of Years and the ruins of time, and then caused a great collapse of time and space around the ruins of the God of Years. It can be seen that there are also many essences in the space-time memories he absorbed and digested in the past. Now they are integrated into one furnace, which is unique and fresh. They come from the years, but are different from the years. This makes the God of Years feel fresh. Otherwise, other supreme masters, relying on their own realms, may not be unable to make similar moves. But it loses its cleverness, and is purely a force to break the cleverness. It is different from Li Yi's current words that have caused such a big change. And this is why the God of Years is reborn with some interest, and he feels that he has a new look at this little life. Immediately, he just maintained the state of his original body in the ruins of the years, and opened his mouth to speak a more powerful word of the origin. He wants to make friends with words. Endure. As soon as these words came out, the ruins of the years were turned upside down, and a violent space-time shock wave was generated out of thin air, plowing through a circle in an instant like a super hurricane. Lin Jianlong and the two sides who had already avoided it were just about to fight again, but seeing this, they had to continue to separate and hold up the divine shield. Fortunately, Lin Jianlong was there. His cosmic light characteristic was quite powerful. With the help of the Xian's Hao Mecha, he protected Lu Yansheng and Xiao Pingchuan. Although it was uncomfortable, he tried his best to hold up the divine shield and barely maintained it. Although the 3 Zibu level masters of the Star Clan had the light Zibu, the current usage was mainly to accelerate the efficiency of the strongest moves. In terms of protective skills such as the divine shield, it was not as effective as the shield composed mainly of the cosmic light characteristic of Lin Jianlong. The moment this Zibu level master, who was mostly injured by Lin Jianlong, was covered by the space-time shock wave, the divine mecha was instantly annihilated. Except for the only trace of the time's Zibu floating in the air, there was no residue left. The original language launched by the Sui Shen's body was so powerful. Chapter 461, Rising. Inside the Sui Shen Palace, Yan felt a strange resonance in her body and was very surprised. This kind of vibration did not seem to be caused by the magnificent sound from the outside world. Instead, it was like resonance, a response action that was enhanced autonomously after feeling the vibration from the outside world. After a while, some more memory images flashed in her mind. Her eyes were confused, and she passively received some knowledge and intelligence information. Then, another huge and wonderful voice came from the Sui Shen Palace. Boom. This is the original language of the real power that Sui Shen used after his body awakened. What he showed to Li Yu before was, after all, the original language displayed by his mind-body. Although it was also very exquisite and could trigger part of the power of his body, it was obviously not as good as what he was doing now with his body. At this moment, time and space were tangled up. Only the Sui Shen Palace belonged to his core body, which offset a lot of the external aftermath and only transmitted the rich information contained in the original language. Otherwise, Yan's body would be destroyed in just one blow. At this moment, deep in the Sui Shen Palace, Li Yu also received the rich information from Sui Shen, and his heart was slightly shocked. Is this the vast amount of information displayed by Sui Shen's body? Sure enough, in that case, I can't lose either. Come on. Li Yu forced his brain to swell, and quickly digested and absorbed this part of the original language in the realm of 10,000 translations. At the same time, he absorbed the memory fragments that were synchronously refreshed in the dream plane. With one mind and two things in mind, he quickly understood the general idea. Then, he opened his mouth and uttered his response. Buzz! This sound was extremely slight, and it seemed that there was no power. But it expressed all the essence of the time and space knowledge he had currently comprehended, and in a moment, it once again set off a huge vibration in Sui Shen's palace. Sui Shen's body, feeling the different truths contained in this language, his eyes lit up. Yes, that's it. Waking up this time is really worth it. He opened his mouth again and uttered another gifted language. Boom. This time, brute force was not used, but like Li Yi, the time and space truth was interpreted in the original language. Therefore, although the noise this time was also earth-shaking, enough to shake the remains of the God of Years, but it did not set off a huge time and space shock wave like before. Instead, it eliminated the shock brought by Li Yi's original language. It not only competed in the cognition of time and space, but also in the control of time and space. For a while, the two talked to each other across the air and had a lot of fun. Li Yu learned more and more exquisite knowledge about the characteristics of time from the original language of the God of Years. And the God of Years also got different inspirations from the miscellaneous knowledge of various time and space memory fragments that Li Yu had accumulated before. Both sides gained something. Even though the life status of the God of Years at this moment is much higher than Li Yi. But he respects Li Yu very much at this moment. What he respects is naturally not the life status, but the respect for the other party's increasingly in-depth understanding of time and space and years. In his past years, there were really few wonderful people like Li Yu that he had met. During the exchange, the ruins of time sometimes produced earth-shaking earthquakes, and sometimes disappeared quickly. Lin Jianlong and his companions, including the remaining two branch-level strongmen of the Star Clan, were also shocked, as if they were sitting on a super-large ship that was out of self-control, and were shaken by the surging waves and could not tell north from south, and the world was spinning. After all, even time and space itself were turning upside down and shaking in this place. No matter how strong they were, they could not escape the strong interference of the shaking of time and space on their bodies and souls. Among the whole audience, only Lin Jianlong was in a slightly better situation. An old quasi-god, who mainly cultivated the characteristics of the cosmic light in this life, was not in vain. In the blink of an eye, another day passed quietly. And the great collapse outside the ruins of time has been expanding more and more as Li Yi communicated with the origin of the god of time. It is tearing apart a large amount of time and space at an astonishing speed that exceeds the speed of light by hundreds of times. I am afraid that as time goes by, this area of the Stardust Corridor will completely become a time and space zone that divides the two star fields. Once the space-time absolute zone is formed, this place will become a special environment without space-time and matter. From now on, not only the passage to the Stargate will be cut off here. Even those starships and small stargates with self-jumping functions cannot pass through here. Conventional matter will soon be directly crushed by the space-time turbulence that fills the interior. In itself, the pure activation of the original language will not cause such a big commotion. But the original languages of the two are superimposed on each other, and the special existence of the relics of the years themselves is added, which will produce such a big earth-shaking change. In the Sui Shen Palace, the quasi-god Heiming has already broken away from the intoxicated state of perception. As soon as he woke up, he was surprised to find such a terrifying change in the outside world, and had to interrupt the communication between Li Yi and Sui Shen, trying to stop the two. Lord Sushin, Boss Li Yi, please stop, can't you listen? Quasi-god Black Life was anxious and shouted, if you don't stop, this silent star domain and the burning star domain will be completely torn apart by you, and will never be connected again. The silent star domain will be torn apart from the burning star domain? Hearing this, Li Yi finally woke up from this highly intensive state and stopped using the original language. Quasi-god Black Life was of course exaggerating. The Stardust Corridor is still very long. Although the two people are tearing it apart quickly, they can still hold on for a while. Well, the premise is that Li Yi's communication with Sushin does not escalate. But quasi-god Black Life can also see clearly that Li Yi's understanding of the original language is getting higher and higher, and it has reached a level that he cannot understand. In this situation, he can't imagine how low the probability is that the intensity of communication between Lord Sushin and Li Yi will not continue to escalate. Fortunately, Li Yi stopped, blinked, and asked, Sir Black Life, I was just communicating with Lord Sushin. How could it cause the connection between the silent star field and the scorching star field, and the Stardust Corridor to be torn apart? This is an extremely long planetary belt that stretches for at least tens of thousands of light years. Quasi-god Black Life vomited blood in his heart. Is this kid really a new generation of humans? Is it not some old monster reincarnated to play tricks on him? Feel it carefully yourself. Through the reflection area outside the Sushin Palace, you can directly see the changes in time and space in the outside world. Don't think that the movement you are causing now seems to be just ordinary vibration in the Sushin Palace, but in fact, the impact on the outside world is too great, to a degree that you can't imagine. Don't blame me for not reminding you, Lord Sushin's life level is already the top level in the universe, but you haven't been promoted to demigod yet. If it has such a big impact on the universe, I'm afraid you can't bear the backlash. Li Yi's heart moved slightly. Backlash? Why don't I feel it? Chapter 462 Review. Destroying a part of the universe will cause backlash? What kind of backlash is that? Li Yi asked curiously. Quasi-god Black Fate was stunned for a moment. You haven't felt it yet? Li Yi shook his head. No feeling. That's strange. Quasi-god Black Fate murmured. How could it be? You destroyed such a large part of time and space, which is equivalent to bearing the time and space load represented by this part of time and space. How could you not feel the backlash? Li Yi's eyes swept towards the Sui Shen Palace, observing the situation of the outside universe. Combining the words of Quasi-god Black Fate, he said thoughtfully, in other words, the so-called backlash is the space-time load that these greatly collapsed space-times need to bear, which will normally be transferred to the destroyers. Wouldn't it be easy to crush the destroyers in this way? Quasi-god Black Fate explained. That's the truth, but it won't be so easy to crush the strong, because you only have to block it for a while, and then the origin of the universe will slowly complete the repair, or default to eliminating this piece of space-time, so that the strong who destroys will not be under a strong load. Of course, such rules are naturally a constraint, which will allow the strong above the supreme to consciously control the intensity of their attacks. But the problem is, you haven't felt this load yet. Li Yi shrugged. Maybe Lord Sui Shen has borne it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Quasi-god Black Fate shook his head. Even Lord Sui Shan cannot change this law, he can only exempt himself. Which part is caused by who? The origin will have a very clear classification. Are you sure? Of course, but, Black Life Quasi-God thought, Lord Sushin can be exempted because his life status is so respected, but why can you be exempted too? Incredible, really incredible, Li Yu pondered in his heart. If it has nothing to do with Sushin, could it be related to the original language that he created and belongs to him alone? Or is it his own indestructible characteristics that exempted him from these? Because his body did not have any induction and no traces were left, it was difficult for him to judge these. However, it was also fortunate that the damage to the Stardust Corridor was not too great before. He estimated that it was only 10 light years at most. Of course, before he mastered the original language, even if he advanced to demigod and then controlled an SS Mecha, he would probably not be able to cause such a large-scale, and deep collapse effect. Now, he only needs to rely on one Yi's skills and activate the original language he currently masters to achieve 30% to 10% of the effect. Because the other 70% is mainly attributed to Sushin. He can reach such a level in a short period of time, which is the result of high-intensity self-exploitation. If there is no indestructible characteristic, he would have collapsed himself long ago. With this amount of information, not to mention him, even a quasi-god would have to kneel down. With his current vision, he no longer had the awe he had before for the quasi-god. After all, just the divine armor, combined with the current physical strength, fighting realm, burst skills, etc., he estimated that he was definitely capable of fighting against senior quasi-gods. After all, the increase in combat power brought by the divine armor alone far exceeded that of the divine Mecha. Of course, if the quasi-god controlled the divine Mecha, that would be another result. Unless Li Yi activated the original language again. However, this move was too powerful, and he himself would not feel good in this range of the Great Collapse. It was better to use it only when he attacked from a distance or encountered a terrifying enemy that he needed to exchange injuries for injuries. In addition, it was also suitable for use in large-scale wars. Especially in wars that robbed families and exterminated clans. Just go over with a Great Collapse and it was over. Of course, a strong man above the demigod level who controlled a divine Mecha could naturally escape the disaster, but he would also inevitably suffer injuries. Among the strongest, even if they can control divine mechas, if they do not master the characteristics of time and space, they will be destroyed in one fell swoop. That is to say, as long as I don't encounter those resurrected people above the quasi-god level, I will be invincible. Thinking of this, even Li Yi, who has absorbed countless memories and has long been tempered to be very calm, couldn't help but feel happy. It seems that although he is still far from becoming a true god, at least it should be enough to protect humans from foreign enemies. Although the number of people who helped him during his growth is not too many, a race cannot be counted like this. It can be said that all the information codes circulating in his genes are essentially the ancestors who were born in ancient times, and gradually mutated, born, and bred after overcoming countless hardships. Without these, there would be no him today. Perhaps his talent may be the result of countless accumulations of his predecessors, plus some luck and some external forces, which happened to be born. Without this talent, he knew that he would definitely not be content with being ordinary, but he would definitely not be able to reach this point today. He even suspected that he was the reincarnation of some super old monster. Or maybe he was just the body of an old monster, but he just looked young. But he couldn't confirm these speculations using all the skills he had, including trace identification, gene decoding, parallel memory screening, and other means. So, he no longer doubted it. He was himself. Even if one day a strong man told him that he was just his substitute, he would never easily admit it. Even after many investigations, Li Yu believed that he was just a miracle child. Maybe there were some strong people behind his birth. But it must not be the main reason. Because if there was, there would definitely not be only one person like him in this universe. There is no backdoor in his body and soul. Of course, if there is, it must be the work of a terrifying existence far above his realm. After in-depth communication with Sui Shen these days, he has basically confirmed that there should be no such creature in the universe. Unless it is the true God that has always been believed to exist vaguely, but may exist. If it is a true God, it is indeed possible. Although the Supreme and the Overlord are also powerful, he is at least not inferior in cognitive ability. But this is just an inference, and the probability is terribly low. As for the present, There is no need to think too much, just work hard to improve yourself. Speaking of which, with the improvement of my current understanding of time and space, I can start to solve the problem of the black line in my destiny, Liu pondered. He needs to retreat for a period of time to focus on digesting and absorbing the gains from communicating with the God of Years during this period. The progress during this period is too great. The growth of soul and brain power alone is far greater than before. After completing the retreat and summarizing all the gains, this problem should be solved. As for the 3 Xibu-level strongmen, he thought of this and closed his eyes slightly. Try to use the realm of one eye to strengthen his perception of time and space. Start. Buzz. In an instant, the scene inside the entire ruins of time fell into his mind. Try a small collapse at a long distance and see the effect. Chapter 463, Small Collapse. Li's heart moved, and he mobilized the original language. The original language does not need to be spoken. Before, he communicated with the God of Years by speaking, mainly out of respect. As for now, it is more efficient to mobilize directly with the divine power of the prison, combined with the effect of the realm of 10,000 translations. He has found one of the divine mechas of the Xibu-level strongmen, which seems to have just suffered a lot of damage in resisting the aftermath of the space-time shock wave of the God of Years. It's just right, then, activate. Buzz. A powerful force of space-time collapse was emitted in an instant. The next blink of an eye. In the ruins of the years, the terrifying vibration caused by the space-time shock wave caused by the activities of the God of Years has just disappeared. The 2 Xibu-level alien strongmen who separated to avoid a space-time shock wave had not had time to lament the sudden death of their old friend. The soul suddenly felt an unparalleled crisis. He opened his mouth to say something. Boom. The small space-time collapse controlled within a range of 10,000 meters began. Lin Jianlong and the others, who had avoided for a distance, saw a horrifying scene in the horrifying fluctuations of the detection vision. In just a moment, all the water, grassland, and blue sky in front of them disappeared. First, they disappeared silently as if they were erased from the ground by an eraser. Then, after the collapse of time and space, a huge space-time shock wave was generated again. Boom. The speed of this space-time shock wave was as fast as the speed of light. Wherever it passed, there was nothingness again. It was about to hit the divine mecha of Lin Jianlong and the other 2. Suddenly, this space-time shock wave disappeared as if it was extinguished by something. Lu Yansheng was stunned. Lin Jianlong was also a little surprised. What happened? At the same time, the S-level alien god sequence Viper mecha located in the center of the small collapse was instantly destroyed by the space-time collapse before it could hold up the divine shield. All matter, all components, disappeared completely. Not a trace remained. Even the divine nucleus that could connect to the origin of the universe was completely eliminated. Clean and clear, without a trace. Only the thin sheet of time remained, floating slowly in this 10,000-meter wide space and time zone. What is going on? Xiao Pingchuan spoke with difficulty. Why are these space-time shock waves so frequent? Commander, is this normal? Are the ruins of time always so dangerous? Lin Jianlong gritted his teeth. Don't ask me, I don't know, Lu Yansheng said thoughtfully. The case is solved. This wave should be Liu's doing. Maybe he got some control authority within the ruins of time, and used the things inside the ruins of time to remotely kill this branch-level strong man. Otherwise, the space-time shock wave just now could not have disappeared in front of us after it was issued. Xiao Pingchuan, old Lu, your joke is a bit too much. Lu Yansheng shrugged and said, I never joke around, I just make judgments based on facts. Lin Jianlong took a deep breath and said, it doesn't matter who did it for the time being. Now, let's get the 2 lost time branch books first. After all, from the current point of view, we are the beneficiary. Hiss, the effect of this small collapse is pretty good. It's just that the range is hard to control. If it can be accurately exploded on the enemy, there is no need to cause damage to nearby friendly forces. Liu manipulated the original language and intercepted the space-time shockwave in the air. The consumption was greater than launching a small collapse. Because the small collapse is a collapse-style trick, the consumption he launched only has 2 steps. The first step is positioning, which requires confirming the specific location and the space-time structure of the corresponding location. This is a consumption of soul and brain power. The second step is to detonate the structure of the bottom layer of space-time. This is like blasting. The focus is on the blasting fulcrum, not the strongest place. Therefore, the consumption of these two steps is not large in general. With his current strength, it is not a big problem to play dozens of rounds a day. On the contrary, it is the avalanche effect produced after the collapse of space-time, which is superimposed on the original space-time potential energy, and is constantly blessed. The power is dozens or hundreds of times greater. This is why the space-time shock wave generated by the original language of the God of Years can still pose such a great threat to those top powers at a distance of tens of thousands of kilometers. The small collapse caused by Li Yu was not big, so the space-time shock wave increased by about 20 times. So he spent a lot of energy to use the original language to extinguish this space-time shock wave. Li Yu wanted to have another small collapse, but he thought that he might not be able to extinguish the next space-time shock wave in time, so he didn't start it again just in case. As for going out to help now, it is unnecessary. With Lin Jianlong's strength, plus Lao Lu Xiao Pingchuan, it is not impossible to take down the wounded Zivu-level strong man. The focus now is to retreat. Li Yu asked the Black Life Quasi-God to let him pass a message to Xiongyan and Tan Yaozu, and decided to stay in the Suishan Palace for a few more days. Apart from anything else, retreating here to sort out the harvest, and communicating with Suishan from time to time, the harvest will be greater. Of course, there is no need to make such a big fuss this time. Moreover, he has vaguely realized the relationship between fate and space and time. The inner circle of Suishan Palace. After Yan was activated by the original language this time, a lot of memories appeared in her mind. She understood something, her eyes were dim. So that's it, so this is my mission, she sighed softly and turned away. She didn't continue to look for Li Yi. Just now, there seemed to be a glow in her pupils, and she saw through the various obstacles in the Suishan Palace and saw the scene in the depths. So, he figured out what Li Yi was doing at the moment, and there was no danger at the moment. So he didn't plan to disturb him. All the way back to the periphery of Suishan Palace. Fuck, Yan, where did you and Li Yi sneak away? Tan Yaozu had not yet completed this wave of absorption and digestion of the energy of the space-time god. He woke up before because of the huge movement before. The communication between Suishan and Li Yi lasted for so long. Although the Suishan Palace was safe, he didn't have the mind to practice. He listened to the communication between the two with all his heart, trying to learn something. After all, he mainly cultivated the characteristics of coordination and had his own unique understanding of the characteristics of space-time. Therefore, compared with other strong men, it is more suitable for him to listen here. The outer perimeter of the Sushan Palace just eliminated some noise, which made him gain a lot. Although he was far inferior to the Black Life Quasi-God, he would definitely make a leap in time. Nothing, you are in seclusion, and Li Yi is also in seclusion, Yan smiled faintly. Huh? Tan Yaozu's eyes moved slightly, and he noticed a change in Yan's way of speaking, and asked, have you recovered your memory? Chapter 464, Retreat. Me. Yan shook his head, don't talk nonsense, I still don't remember a lot. Tan Yaozu's eyes were filled with suspicion. Women are very good at lying, and beautiful women are even more deceiving. Old Tan is so old, how can he not see that Yan's words are not sincere? But, is there anything shameful in Yan's memory? Or is it that he just doesn't have the weight to make Yan tell the truth? Strictly speaking, Tan Yaozu and Yan are strong men of the same period. They were once active together. Therefore, Tan Yaozu's awe and sense of distance from Yan are not that great. Haha, I'll just ask Li Yi to find out later, little guy, Tan Yaozu thought to himself. However, although he thought so, he said, since Li Yi has his own things, why don't we say goodbye to the Black Life Quasi-God for the time being and meet up with Chief Lin and others? Then come to Li Yi. Yan nodded and said, okay. At this time, Li Yi had already started his own retreat. The opportunity was rare, and his primary goal this time was naturally to focus on sorting out the original language. Although he has made rapid progress in the past few days, he has only initially built a system. In other words, it is not perfect enough. After sorting it out and checking for omissions, he will be able to achieve more precise control. Apart from anything else, it is very important to accurately control the killing range of the small collapse. What is more important is to improve and organize his own space-time cognition through the process of perfecting the original language. Then, solve the problem of the Black Air of Fate in one fell swoop. Secondly, although it was just a glimpse, He did see a corner of the body of the God of Years. This huge body seemed to stretch its limbs at will in the ruins of time. In fact, he hid his body in a very deep space-time layer. The part of his body that was revealed from the sunset this time was only a part of his body. According to Li Yi's communication with the God of Years, the body of the God of Years has been growing. In the past 10 billion years, the body has grown larger than a star. Such a huge body, just existing in this universe, will cause a great impact. In order to avoid disturbance from the outside world and to avoid being bothered by some old strong men, he completely hid his body in the multiple space-time layers in the ruins of time after the second era. Staying there is comfortable and not too much trouble. In any case, Li Yi has already gained a lot of additional insights from the corner of the star-like body of the Sui Shin that he saw this time. After all, Li Yi's current observation ability is no longer the same as before. Under the realm of 10 nanometers and 10,000 translations, he has realized a new way of life from the Sui Shin's body. He plans to try to reproduce part of the essence of Sui Shen's body with a body forging method in addition to sorting out the original language this time. This step is difficult. After all, the strongest material of his previous body forging method was just flame. And it was the material he obtained by catalyzing and observing the transformation process throughout the whole process. With these things, it is certainly not difficult to improve. And Sui Shin is not only strong, but also has no such transformation process for him to refer to. It is too difficult to reproduce part of the essence. But Li Yi thinks it is worth a try. This is a life form like a star. It is far different from the deformed life of the Star Clan that was born with the help of the brilliance of the star and distorted by the God Man. Even if it succeeds only a little bit, my own body forging method may be enough to break through again. Taking a deep breath, Li Yi began to dream, selecting the next skill fragment to absorb. Hey! A sharp sword light flashed, and the Xianzhao Mecha accurately chopped the head of the alien god sequence skyscraper Mecha. In the blade, the cosmic light characteristic was activated, and the force of time and space distortion suddenly increased, and the head of the skyscraper Mecha broke. Boom! The ground fell on this huge head comparable to a small building, smashing a pit heavily. Lu Yansheng controlled the Sea King Mecha to fly up and catch up, and the freezing cannon shot directly to freeze the head. The strongest divine freezing wave, no matter how strong the Star Clan's strongmen inside are, it is naturally impossible to escape at will. If Lu Yansheng has not advanced yet, and this guy has the strength of Hengser, it may not be impossible. It's over. The three of them exhaled and felt a little relieved. Since the 2 consecutive waves of time and space shock waves, they have all been a little nervous and sensitive. Although Lu Yansheng firmly believed that it was Li Yi's trick, he was also made to doubt himself by Xiao Pingchuan. Therefore, he was still tense all the time after this battle. He was afraid that another time and space shock wave would come and wipe them out. But now it seems to have been successfully completed. Next, it is interrogation. There is only one survivor left, and considering that this person is too strong, they don't plan to keep him for long this time. With a lesson of Hengser in front of them, they will naturally not be careless. After asking some questions, they will kill those who should be killed. Now, the intelligence gap is not as big as before. The intelligence that is still needed now is naturally the problem of the time branch book. In a blink of an eye, time passed quickly. 7 days have passed. In the Battle of the Star Clan, with the departure of 3 branch-level strongmen, the original veteran strongmen were killed one after another. Their resistance force did not pose much of a strong threat at all. In addition, on the battlefield, humans are led by the demigod Qin Longchuan. All the way down, they are naturally invincible. The most important Chang'an Star and the Nano ruins have been conquered, occupied, and taken into the hands of the human side. However, in the final battle of extermination, the human side still encountered some obstacles. The last batch of the strongest, Heng Zilong, Mia's Hibu, Shan's Hibu, Ming's Hibu, led the last batch of silver strongmen to retreat to the satellite next to Chang'an Star, Zhuangxing. They activated all the war weapons and special equipment left over from the Divine Era to defend with all their strength. For a time, they defended quite tightly. Even Qin Longchuan drove the Snow Dragon Mecha and directly activated the Guangxing Divine Energy Cannon to freeze the entire Zhuangxing. However, due to the special climate of Zhuangxing itself and the various special equipment deployed inside, this demigod was still unable to break through Zhuangxing at full power. The war was deadlocked there. Although humans have achieved an unprecedented historical victory, But considering that the golden race is still protecting the star race, this battle should be fought sooner rather than later. It is necessary to completely complete the extermination and get the countermeasure equipment in their hands before the golden race discovers it. In this way, even if the golden race comes to help, they will weigh their strength and dare not fight head-on. And most importantly, when the top strong men of the star race are completely destroyed, the golden race, the fifth or god race, will completely lose the name of the expedition. After all, according to the rules of the aliens, as long as the race wins the war and seizes the highest ruling seal of the other race, humans will automatically have the name of the silver race. At this time, the golden race will not be able to attack humans at will. Unless they are willing to gamble on the name of the race war, but this possibility is too low. After all, it's okay to fight the corners, but it's troublesome to fight the whole race. They don't have the determination and motivation of humans. Chapter 465, Death. Deep inside the Sushin Palace. Sitting on one side, Li Yi slowly opened his eyes. An unusually bright light shot out from his pupils. The entire environment was suddenly as bright as daylight. And around his eyes, a faint dark area formed. This was a sign that Li Yi's soul surplus had greatly increased, and it had also caused great depression on the surrounding light. It pushed out other light and gathered in other directions, forming a distinct light and dark world. The way of destiny, it's done. Retracting the divine light in his eyes, a trace of joy flashed in his eyes. Not bad, not bad. The 7 days of retreat, while summarizing the relationship between destiny and time and space, while absorbing memory fragments, really passed quickly. In these 7 days, he gained a lot. The primary goal is to use the knowledge of time and space to deconstruct and analyze destiny. This step of the skill has been basically completed. He calls it the solution of destiny. At present, he can also achieve the same means as the Black Destiny Quasi-God. That is, by observing the virtual phase of a person's destiny, the other party's position, direction, and form in multiple time and space can be seen. Through these specific information, combined with a deep understanding of the structure of space and time, it is possible to determine what this creature will encounter in the future and what its fate will be. This sounds very mysterious. After all, this involves predicting the future. But in fact, the principle is very simple. Because the fate of a creature is just a tiny part of the long universe, it is insignificant. For example, an ant looks at the blue sky, and a fish swims in the sea. No, even this gap is considered small. In fact, it is billions of times larger than this. Even at the scale of stars, there are hundreds of millions of them in this huge universe. Therefore, as long as the position of a creature in deep space and time is located, its fate can be calculated. Except for a few who will encounter variables, the vast majority of others cannot transcend the space and time around him. Space and time are both the foundation of the survival of creatures and the shackles that restrict them. And with Li Yi's current understanding of space and time, combined with the divinity of the prison, it is too simple to accomplish these. Only those creatures with a large life scale occupy a large space and time interface, so their fate cannot be calculated at will. Let me see what this line of black air is. He took a deep breath and activated the skill of life-saving. Buzz! In an instant, all the matter in his eyes suddenly became virtual, turning into an infinitely complex multiverse space-time structure. He switched his perspective and found the line of black air in the virtual form of his destiny outside his body. That's you, whoosh! His vision, following this line of black air, began to leap into the depths of multiverse space-time. In a blink of an eye, he crossed many boundaries in space-time. He still hasn't found it. His burden gradually deepened. Good guy, it's buried so deep, no wonder those things Li Lulu said before were like flowers in the fog, not clear. Li Yu gritted his teeth and directly activated the 2.0 burst skill. Boom. The brain state improved rapidly, and the brain cells suddenly became active. The life-saving skill does not consume much divinity, but mainly consumes brain power. With the blessing of the immortal characteristic, his brain power continued to be fully utilized and repeatedly broke the limit. Finally, he saw the source of the black gas's roots deep in the universe structure. It turned out to be a huge, towering tree standing in the depths of the universe. And his line of black gas was just a line of roots of the towering tree. Looking carefully, the countless roots under this towering tree actually extended all over the universe, spanning countless light years. Its coverage spanned more than a dozen large star fields. The scorching star field, the silent star field, the frost star field, The Feather God Star Field, the Thunder Star Field, etc., were outrageous. This towering tree was rooted in the fate of countless races and countless intelligent creatures. Li Yi observed it carefully for a few more times and saw that there were countless doom-like space-time forces that were continuously output through these roots. And what was absorbed back were those space-time forces that represented good luck. Hiss. Li Yi secretly smacked his lips. Good guy, this is too outrageous, right? Could it be that this is some hidden prehistoric ancient creature that wants to gather the power of countless creatures and cultivate into true god? Needless to say, if it continues to collect like this for billions of years, it is indeed possible to find another way to succeed. However, your method is too cruel, leaving almost no room for those creatures. Li Yi thought, thanks to his extraordinary talent, he can directly crush the unfavorable factors brought by bad luck, continue to strengthen, and make bad luck unable to catch up with him. If it were someone else, he might be unlucky to be chosen. When I become stronger, I will find you sooner or later. However, Li soon thought about it and realized that he might not have the means to cut off the roots of the black line without avoiding the perception of the giant tree. At the very least, the original language must be perfected to the extent that it can be launched within a millimeter without affecting other things. Only the original language has the ability to cut off the roots at such a distance. Now, he can only temporarily cut off the connection between himself and the roots of bad luck. However, he knew that with the characteristics of the roots, they would grow back soon. His move was only a temporary solution, not a permanent one. He had to wait until he was more proficient in the origin of speech. Even though he had improved a lot after 7 days of retreat, he immediately activated the suppressing space membrane and condensed it into a sharp blade. Then, he fine-tuned the space-time structure inside the suppressing space membrane to the same depth as the root of misfortune. The space-time structure has countless embedded layers. The deeper the structure, the more it can affect the outer structure. Therefore, if the space-time structure of the suppressing space membrane is not enough, the root of misfortune cannot be cut. For example, the space-time structure layer where the giant tree of destiny is rooted is very deep, with a minimum of 100,000 layers. The current limit of the suppressing space membrane can only be adjusted to 1,800 layers. This is the result of his 7 days of retreat. Of course, this is already stronger than most quasi-gods. It is also enough to cut off the root of misfortune that leaked on the surface of space-time. On the other hand, as long as the number of layers of the space-time structure is sufficient, the suppressing sky membrane can cut off the fate of all living beings and kill a strong man from the root. Even the clone cannot be revived. Cut. Immediately, the suppressing sky membrane flashed sharply and passed over his head. On the virtual image of fate that cannot be seen by the naked eye, a root of misfortune connected to the depths of the universe was immediately broken. The upper end is not destroyed, but the traces are hidden. The lower end that was cut off slowly dispersed and dissipated into the invisible. At least it can be stabilized for a while. The surface roots of misfortune are cut off, which should not have much impact on this giant tree of destiny and will not alarm it. Li Yi nodded slightly. After doing this step, he was ready to try his new bodybuilding method. It was a new method created by the inspiration of the God of Years. In these 7 days, while he sorted out the original language and improved his cognition of space and time, the other main time was above this. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466, Years of Forging. Because this bodybuilding method is not perfect yet, he has only made a preliminary version. It is not certain how effective it will be. But it can be used on himself after all. The method is still forging, and the godhood of the prison is still used. But Li soon estimated that when he can practice the accuracy of the original language to the nanometer level in the future, his bodybuilding method of years will probably be perfect. He took a deep breath, adjusted his breathing, encouraged the godhood of the prison to turn into a fist, and began to forge. Boom, boom, boom. After this accumulation of nano-perception, my brain power has also increased a lot. I should be able to try to advance, but there is no hurry. Try the bodybuilding method now, it should be completed in the process. A series of thoughts flashed through his mind, and his godhood of the prison connected a large amount of time and space power, which was injected into his body, affecting a large number of microscopic organelles and constituent particles at the nanometer level. Soon, a large number of changes began to occur inside the body. This is the gene being forged, continuously optimized, and fed back to the flesh. Soon, Li Yu felt an unprecedented hunger. Damn, what's going on? It wasn't like this before when he was training his body, right? When he trained himself before, he used nutrient solution to deal with the problem of energy replenishment in the early stage. After mastering the thunder forging method in the later stage, he absorbed a lot of thunder and lightning power and stored it in the cells. After the immortality characteristic was cultivated, he mastered the ability similar to ship transformation, which could absorb a lot of free energy into the body. Therefore, there is basically no lack of energy in daily life. But now, it feels that the energy absorbed can't keep up with the energy needed for the optimization of the body after forging. Li Yu's eyes lit up. This is good news. Although he can't absorb it, it also proves that his transformation this time, the immortality characteristic born, must be more. He immediately jumped and flew out of the core area of the Sui Shen Palace. This is the place where the Sui Shen's mind-body is enriched. Although the energy is sufficient, it is not as sufficient as the periphery of the Sui Shen Palace. Because the mind-body does not need energy, but the nourishment of the body. There is not much energy to absorb here, and the energy that can be absorbed is all after the transformation of the Sui Shen. Outside the Sui Shen Palace, the rich space-time divine energy was really fierce. Immediately, his figure shot out of the Sui Shen Palace and quickly absorbed the surrounding energy. Suction. The energy here was too rich. Li Yu took some initiative to control it and absorbed a lot of energy. In an instant, the surrounding energy gathered like a vortex. Moreover, Li Sun's body at this moment was also very amazing. He did not reject these energies. Instead, as the body forging continued, the whole process was accelerated. Boom. Li Sun was shocked. He felt that under the forging of the Sui forging method, the energy gap was getting bigger and bigger, and he was getting more and more hungry. Is it so terrifying? Is this the charm of prehistoric ancient life? He immediately activated the gravitational characteristics, the primordial magnetic characteristics, the tornado characteristics, and multiple characteristics into one, accelerating the absorption. Suction, suction, suction. More and more amazing energy gathered. Under the strong centripetal force, it soon formed an amazing liquefied vortex. The noise was so outrageous that it quickly alarmed the armored demigods and quasi-gods who were cultivating outside the Sui God Palace. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, demigods and quasi-gods in armor that Li Yu had never seen before flew in from all over the vast periphery of the Sui God Palace. They were all armored people that he had never seen before. There were so many Sui God messengers under the protection of Sui God. In just a blink of an eye, Li Yu saw 5 quasi-gods and more than 20 demigods. And this did not include the quasi-god Black Life. They seemed to know who Li Yu was. After arriving, they whispered to each other at most, but did not speak loudly. Listening carefully, they seemed to be greeting each other. Quasi-god Tongwen, long time no see. I didn't expect you to wake up so early this time. I remember that you would only wake up after a disaster 500 years ago. Why did you wake up so early this time? Don't mention it. It was last week when Lord Sui God awakened and activated the original language to stir up the relics of time, forcing me to wake up from my slumber. Quasi-god Lianming, are you the same? Everyone is like this now. I heard that Lord Sui God was communicating with a young genius in the original language, and he was in high spirits, so he awakened all of us who were sleeping in the star core. Haha, is the young genius the one in front of you? Yes, he does have the demeanor of dominating a generation. Back then, I also dominated this star field with a sword and shot through 3 top quasi-gods with one shot. Hey, I just don't know how good the young geniuses of this era are. Nonsense. There are only a few strong men who can communicate with Lord Sushin in the original language in an era. This must be very good. You'd better be a little discerning and don't make it look bad. Lord Sushin has a long life and will not pay attention to us little guys. You don't have to show your face here if you want to. Show your face? I'm already this age, I've long passed that mentality, don't worry. I'm just curious. The content of their communication was really rich in information. Li Yu concentrated on forging, but occasionally heard 1 or 2 sentences, which was interesting. He originally thought that these ancient strong men had long passed away. But now think about it, A divine heir can last for hundreds of millions of years, and the masters that can be brewed must be countless. If it is really accumulated from generation to generation like the Black Life quasi-god, then it is indeed countless, as numerous as cattle hair. Now it seems that there is indeed no sense of distance in the past, but a bit more fireworks. Gradually, the number of this group of old strong men who have just awakened not long ago no longer increases. Suddenly, a stream of light shot from a distance. Swoosh! An astonishing breath came over. The strong men present actually held up the divine shields one after another, trying to resist this breath. It seems that this breath contains extremely powerful pressure or harm. Li Yu did not feel the horror of these breaths because the energy vortex sweeping outside his body was really amazing, comparable to Poyang Lake on Earth, covering a wide area. However, he took the time to see the changes outside, and his heart was slightly moved. This kind of spirit, suppressing a group of quasi-gods, could it be a supreme strong man? Unfortunately, Li Yu no longer has the energy to pay attention to the outside world at this moment. His year's body forging method has progressed to the most critical moment. Now the forging position is the brain. This part has not been involved in the body forging methods he created in the past. The reason for this is that the transformation and strengthening of the brain of those strong men who used as reference materials before are far inferior to him. And the year god is naturally not among them. Just relying on his star-like body is enough to make him ashamed. It can also be seen that the wisdom of the god of years is so profound. This time, his movements were too gentle, for fear of damaging his brain. Although the brain is also protected by the immortality characteristic and is not afraid of damage. But it does not mean that it can be immortal forever. After all, it is a trace of immortality, not complete immortality. Soon, as the forging continued, the brain began to undergo obvious transformation. His vast brain cells cheered. Chapter 46705 Nano. Boom. The brain seemed to have turned on a switch again, and the countless brain cells seemed to be stained with a halo, reflecting each other and shining brightly. In an instant, these extremely active brain cells continued to expand and contract, and seemed to be forged at the cellular level. Gradually, the cell walls, cytoplasm, organelles, mitochondria, and various layers of structures inside the cells were undergoing amazing changes. The halo around each brain cell was gradually getting bigger. At first it was a faint color. Later, it turned into golden light. Boom! Amid the extreme roar of the brain, Li Yu felt as if he had entered the vision of the upgraded dimension again. The whole soul jumped up and kept climbing. He jumped over layer after layer of space-time barriers, and he kept jumping up. At first glance, he seemed to see the entire silent star field. Crash! In the dream plane, a sea of memory fragments fell again. Although these memory fragments were less than the last time he upgraded his vision, they were still amazing enough. Then, he began to fall, returning from this extreme dimensional vision. Gradually, he felt that the transformation of his brain had almost reached its end. With the end of the brain transformation, this round of preliminary attempts at the time-body forging method was basically completed. The vast amount of liquefied space-time divine energy gathered from the outside world was slowly dissipating because he had stopped absorbing it. However, the periphery of the Sushin Palace will surely become an unprecedented energy enrichment area for a long time in the future. After all, this is the space-time divine energy attracted by the time-body forging method. After being extracted and liquefied by the strong suction force, its concentration and quality are already quite high. Plop, plop. Li Yu's mood slowly calmed down from the nearly dimensional vision. It seems that the pleasure of this brain sublimation is more terrifying and wonderful than all the mental hallucinations. He exhaled slowly and began to check the transformation effect of his body. First of all, the brain. He had a hunch that this microscopic vision would definitely have a bigger breakthrough. He directly activated the nanosensor. Hualala. He stared at the palm of his hand, and his vision continued to expand. In an instant, his in-depth observation scale exceeded the previous dynamic observation limit, 10 nanometers. He continued to explore and gradually reached the 1 nanometer level. And this is not over yet, it has not reached the limit. This has crossed the tenfold boundary between 10 and 1 nanometer. And this is not over yet, he is still exploring deeper. Gradually, he came to the boundary of 0.8 nanometers. At this boundary, he could clearly see all the gene chain information in the cell. Those double helix gene structures, and the spherical structure of the divine gene. At a glance, everything was clear, The cilia were subtle, and it was very vivid. This huge amount of information was transferred to his brain, and it was surprisingly easy and without any pressure. After that, it gradually came to the boundary of 0.5 nanometers, and then it reached the limit. This shocked Li Yi. This growth is so terrifying. However, Li Yi felt horrible at first, but after a slight change of mind, he felt it was reasonable. After all, since he reached the 10 nanometer precision, his power has increased a lot. A trace of immortality, the improvement of space-time cognition brought by daily absorption of memory fragments, the increase of brain power brought by communicating in the original language, and this retreat, as well as the special strengthening of the brain by the time-body forging method. Such superposition, if you think about it carefully, it is reasonable. At this boundary, he can clearly see the cilia structure inside the gene chain, as well as the information transmitters in it, how they are transmitted, and how they affect the shape expression of each cell in the body. Combining these clear and intuitive contents, he suddenly integrated the relevant knowledge of genetics, physiology, and human body, and immediately upgraded from proficient level to perfect level. With this perfect level of mastery alone, he can use subtle strength to hit people back to their ancestors with one palm, and activate all aspects of human potential with one palm. Not only that, combined with the power of Wanai, he quickly understood the meaning of a large number of gene chains. I seem to gradually understand the underlying logic of a life, Li Yu murmured in his heart. A life is essentially a robot that is extremely complex, a complex robot composed of blood, flesh and carbon-based substances. Its bottom layer is coding. As long as you can see the code and decipher it, you can create the life form represented by the corresponding code system at will. However, Li Yu knew that he was still a step away from being able to create a life form at will. The main reason was that he had a microscopic vision and could not see some subtle codes clearly. At least, he needed to wait until the dynamic microscopic precision reached 0.1 nanometers before this was possible. But in any case, with the improvement of nanometer precision, his subsequent improvement of the body forging method would have many more possibilities. Not only that, due to the details of the changes in the body brought about by the years of body forging method, he could also see more finely and richly. Indistinctly, he had more ideas about how to improve the years of body forging method in the future. Although I can't create it at will, it should be feasible to try to make a simple life form. At this moment, the liquefied space-time divine energy in front had not completely dissipated, and it was floating slowly in front of him like clouds. The demigods and quasi-god armored people on the periphery saw that the liquefied divinity had not completely dissipated, so they did not rush to say hello. Li Yu's mind moved and he had an idea. He reached out and picked up a cloud of divine energy of space and time. Then, he moved his subtle strength. At a depth of 0.5 nanometers, he quickly gave this cloud a large life code. These life codes are based on human wisdom codes. This is what he cracked with the realm of Wanai, which basically determines the underlying structure of human wisdom. That is, the cerebral cortex, brain area connection, neural blocks, etc. The essence of these things can also be applied to machines. It's just that due to the difference in material properties, it is necessary to fine-tune the codes according to the difference in the carrier material. Soon, under his now magnificent brain power, this cloud of divine energy of space and time slowly has a subtle change. Woo, woo. The cloud was agitated, with a little more agility. And it was making a sound that ordinary people couldn't hear. But Li Yu's Wanai power naturally understood the meaning at once. Dad, Li Yu couldn't help but smile. This is the real creation of life. He succeeded. He created an unprecedented race. He looked at it and found that the cloud seemed to be missing something. After thinking for a while, he activated the sky-suppressing membrane to fix the shape of the cloud, making it a humanoid shape the size of a palm. Then, he used the sky-suppressing membrane to fix various divine flames and color it. Chapter 468 Amazing. While Li Yu was coloring this new life, he was observing the changes in other aspects of his body. He was mainly looking at the immortality and the growth of the physical strength. As for the immortality, a conservative estimate is that if it was 1 strand before, it is now 60 strands. It has increased 60 times in one breath. Not bad. What is the concept of 60 strands of immortality? Li Yu tried to cut himself gently with the air-suppressing membrane and felt it intuitively. The air-suppressing membrane, with 1,800 layers of space-time structure, could not cause him any harm. This is outrageous. In addition to being able to cut other people's virtual fate at will, this strength of the air-suppressing membrane can also try to cut off other people's past and future in the short term. There are invisible things on it. And he estimated that the real matter, such as the armor of the SS-level divine mecha, can also be easily cut. This growth is really wonderful. He estimated that only the years of bodybuilding method can give him such a high growth. If it is replaced by other extremely powerful bodybuilding methods for upgrading to demigods, it is estimated that it is at most 1 or 2 strands. After all, when he first transformed and obtained the first trace of immortality, it was only through the spiritual forging method he obtained from Yen after he was promoted to demigod, and then practiced it after forging his body. With Yen's specialness, he could only obtain a trace. It is estimated that other strong men will not have much more, or even none. The subsequent direction is to either be promoted from demigod to quasi-god, and quasi-god to supreme strong men to obtain materials. After all, this is an endless treasure house. This path will not end until all the sequences existing in the universe have been collected by him. Secondly, the great treasure house of Suishin cannot be let go in any case. Of course, if other prehistoric ancient creatures can be discovered, it would be even better. Apart from other things, for a life of Suishen's level, that magnificent body, it would take Li Yi a long time to collect his data. And this, in turn, also confirms the horror of Suishen. Suishen obviously does not have immortality. But Li Yi can use the simplest materials from his life to increase so many immortality characteristics. And this is still a body forging method that has not been completely perfected. After it is perfected, even with only these current materials, he can still grow. Not only that, he also has some insights in his heart when combining the life materials of Suishen. Suishen should be born unable to obtain the immortality. He estimated that this might be related to Suishen's natural life type. Prehistoric ancient creatures, because they were born at the beginning of the universe, not only enjoyed the superiority of being born at the same time as the universe, but were also imprisoned by it. Their life scale is too large, but they can't transcend the universe itself. The universe exists, they exist. The universe dies, they die. When the universe ends, they will die. Therefore, it is difficult to obtain the immortality that represents transcendence. Li Yi's current judgment is that the smaller the life scale, the easier it is to break through the realm of God and obtain the immortality. For example, he himself is very strong. But the essence of life has not yet broken through the heavenly position. His current realm is purely relying on a strong soul to forcibly pull up other shortcomings. For example, the physical body essentially relies on his subtle strength and rich genetic knowledge. As for the total amount of divinity, it is achieved by stacking divinity genes. The premise of this method is also the strength of the soul. If it were someone else, they wouldn't be able to do this. And the life forms of the heavenly rank, the strongest, and even the demigod, which have evolved through divinity, will have obvious boundaries, and the essence of life is different. Therefore, he is outside the system of divine evolution. Perhaps the origin of the universe has an error in identifying him, or perhaps the difference in the essence of life is too obvious in the divine advancement system. Perhaps his bodybuilding method is the true avenue of this universe. In short, the difficulty of Li Yi to practice the immortality characteristic is much lower than that of other strong people. It's time to test the growth of strength. At this time, Li Yi tried to wave his hand in one direction. In an instant, the group of divine clouds in front of him flew instantly, turning into a super-large air wave with a width of 10,000 meters, and flew towards the distance of the Sushin Palace. Boom! In an instant, countless circles of shock waves rose from the periphery of the air wave, and it was turbulent. This amazing movement is comparable to the movement of the demigod-level divine mecha swinging. The armored people watching from a distance were shocked. How could such a small body exert such a terrifying power? Li Yi was not on the state of divine armor at this time. After the retreat began, he parked the Pluto mecha aside. And this is just the terrifying power of his body casually swinging. This power is quite fierce. Li Yi's eyes showed surprise. This should be the bonus of the immortal characteristic. Otherwise, according to his own estimation, at most the physical strength can be pulled to the peak of the semigod level. You know, the strong can increase the strength of at least 1.5 levels by controlling the corresponding level of divine mecha. Of course, the stronger the top, the less the increase brought by the divine mecha. If an ordinary evolver controls the divine mecha, the strength level that can be crossed can even reach 3 major levels. From an ordinary first-level evolver, it threatens the heavenly strong in one fell swoop. On the contrary, after reaching the strongest level of Mecha, it can only cross 1.5 levels at most. For example, Zhang Shengfang was half a peak supreme, but he could only tie with the incomplete quasi-god Dan Chenli. No wonder the Lord of Destiny and Supreme Jin Ao would think of developing the function of divine armor. Only by divine armor can we maintain a greater increase in combat power at the top level. Li Yu thought of it. In any case, he can now really tear apart most of the divine mechas. No matter whether it is S or SS level, he doesn't need any blessing, no source language, no prison divinity, no special tricks, nothing is needed. One punch is enough. With one punch, a planet without divine equipment protection can be completely blown up. After reviewing the progress of this time, he nodded slightly. Not bad. Although, some powerful top quasi-gods may not be able to defeat him. But if all the trump cards are taken out, I am afraid that even the supreme level may not be able to stop him. With all his strength, including divine armor, burst skills, and various means, he should be able to dominate the quasi-god level. With the addition of the original language, the Supreme might not be unable to give it a try. At this time, he looked at the new life that he had just distractedly painted, and it was completely completed. Is it a subconscious behavior, or for some other reason? Li Yu found that he had actually painted this divine space-time energy life form into a young version of Yan. At this moment, this palm-sized, elf-like humanoid girl was blinking her crystal eyes, and in the human language that Li Yu had just given her, she shouted softly, "Dad, Dad." Chapter 469 Supreme. Li Yu's eyes became strange. Is this a coincidence? Is it related to the high similarity between his soul and Yan's? He shook his head, touched the little head of the humanoid doll, and said with a smile, "From today on, you will be called she. You are a life form based on the divine energy of time and space. You can naturally swim in the structure of time and space, and have a completely different vision of time and space from humans. In the future, when I am in seclusion, you will be responsible for helping me deal with some chores, understand?" She nodded ignorantly. Li Yu smiled. Although this little thing is still very shallow in wisdom, he has left behind a lot of wisdom codes. As time goes by, I believe he will gradually grow into a reliable assistant. In the future, as his means improve, she will definitely continue to transform. Creating life sounds amazing. It is indeed amazing. But it is not yet at the level of creating a race of life. If she does not rely on him to maintain his life, it is estimated that he can only maintain his life for a few decades at most. Because the power of the air-suppressing membrane is gradually reduced, it will not be able to lock this ball of divine energy of time and space. Therefore, there is still a long way to go to create a completely new race. But no matter what, Li Yu finally understood the state of mind of the gourd man at that time. It is indeed very interesting to create life and study the mystery of wisdom when you can live for a long, long time. Even Li Yu now, even with the blessing of the 1A realm, cannot completely crack the mystery of life and wisdom. He has only extracted the code about wisdom and humans and reassembled it. But why does the information represented by this code produce life and wisdom? This deeper principle and subtle changes have not been fully mastered. It is estimated that it will be possible only when the nano-sensing accuracy reaches 0.1 in nanometers, or even lower 10 femtometers or 1 femtometer. When he reaches that stage, he estimates that he can completely write a basic genetic system of life and pinch out a new species with his bare hands. At this time, because Li Yi had previously blasted away the divine clouds gathered around him with a punch. At this time, the environment in front of him has become much clearer. The demigods and quasi-gods who were watching all surrounded him, and it seemed that they were ready to say hello. The strong man who looked more powerful than everyone else around him was still standing in a corner, as if observing something. The tall and slender man in green armor, who was 1,000 meters away from Li Yi, spoke directly in the language of the First Era. "Congratulations, my friend, your realm has made great progress. I am the quasi-god Lian Ming, from the agricultural god period of the First Era of Divinity. You are a genius of the human race from the chaotic period of the Sixth Era. Sir Li Yi? I am honored. The agricultural god period? The chaotic period?" Li Yi's heart moved. "I am Li Yi. It seems that you have just revived not long ago. How come you know about us humans so quickly?" "You don't know, this is the palace of the God of Years, which naturally records everything from the birth of the universe to the present. The so-called Secret Book of Time is the symbiotic treasure of Lord God of Years. Although the Secret Book of Time was lost later, we still have a copy here. Through this Secret Book of Time, we can naturally know everything in the universe. Quasi-God Lian Ming smiled. Compared with other armored men, his face is quite young. But he was extraordinary, and a group of armored men were surrounding him, seemingly led by him. I don't know where the Black Life Quasi-God has gone. Could it be that he had gained a lot before and went into seclusion? And the Secret Book of Time was lost? This is consistent with the fact that the Gourd Man had left a message before, saying that the Secret Book of Time was hidden in the Inheritance Spire in the southern division of the Inheritance Ruins. Li Yu's mind flashed with a thought, and he understood, so that's the case, but I heard that the words on the Secret Book of Time are obscure and difficult to understand without the original code. Could it be that you also know the secret? He asked this, and he also meant to test it. Last time, I heard from the Black Life Quasi-God that he would try to ask if he could get the corresponding code book from the Year God. But because the communication in the original language was too deep, Li Yu was too interested, and he forgot about it all of a sudden. Now that I heard it, it might as well be asked. Quasi-God Lian Ming smiled and said, of course I have never mastered it, but some of our messengers of the God of Years can watch the images of the universe that appear when Lord God of Years enters his dream. Through this, we can correspond to the copy of the Secret Book of Years and understand everything that has happened in the past and present in the outside world. After all, the code book of the Secret Book of Years is Lord God of Years himself, and we dare only interpret it with the images when Lord God of Years enters his dream, even if what we have is just a copy, as long as we interpret it with the help of Lord God of Years' physical body. The pages of the Secret Book of Years will inevitably be slightly disturbed by the interpretation and change. Any change in the Secret Book is an immeasurable and terrible disaster for the universe. Li Yu understood it now. No wonder Quasi-God Ming said before that the secrets contained in the Secret Book of Years are extremely destructive to the universe. In essence, the God of Years may represent everything related to time in the universe. If he changes, then everything related to time in the universe will change as well. And time is the easiest thing to change everything. Therefore, the importance of Sushin is probably much higher than other similar prehistoric ancient creatures. Unless there are prehistoric ancient creatures in this world that represent the other two main characteristics of time and space, time and yin and yang. While talking, suddenly, the mysterious strong man standing in a corner in the distance suddenly moved, his body flashed, and appeared 100 meters in front of Li Yi. This distance is already very close for strong men of their level. This person should be an armored man from the Third Era. From the looks of it, he is very different from the species evolved from arthropods and exoskeleton creatures in the First and Second Eras. It is an armored man that is more like a shrunk snake-like divine creature. The half-open eyelids cover a pair of sharp eyes with vertical pupils. The gray-black scales cover half of the body, and the chest is interlocked with plate armor, highlighting two huge pectoral muscles. The figure is slender, with a long tail that is thick in front and pointed in the back. The scales are delicate and dense, showing a bright luster. He stared at Li Yi and spoke in the language of the Second Era. It's been a long time since we last met, Liming Tuai. I didn't expect that you could survive the Second Era and revive in this era. Everyone was surprised when he said this. Quasi-God Lian Ming said in surprise, Supreme Lord Longhu, the man in front of you is a new species that appeared in the Fifth Era and grew stronger in this era. The human race is not an old guy like us. Did you make a mistake? Besides, I see that the soul characteristics of Lord Li Yi are completely from this era. Did you make a mistake? Supreme Lord Longhu smiled and looked coldly. Even if he turns into ashes, I will not mistake this guy. Chapter 470, Grudges. You mistook me for Liming Tuai? You recognize me even if I turned into ashes? Longhu Supreme, isn't this the Supreme who built the Xingmeng division with Xingmang Supreme in the Second Era in the previous records? Li Yu remembered that Zhang Shengfang had a big battle with Dan Chenli before he gradually learned about the situation of several eras from him. I actually met the real person today. However, although this person has a strong spirit, he doesn't look like a top Supreme who can build such a magnificent building, right? It can be seen with the naked eye that this person's strength is just standing at the threshold of the Supreme. Although he suppresses the Quasi-God, he must be the last among the Supremas. Of course, it is also possible that he deliberately hides it. But it is unlikely. Li Yu's eyesight is extraordinary now. Just from the perspective of the space-time dimension, he can see many things that others can't see. Could it be that this guy's strength has declined over the years? For example, the other party is obviously a person from the second era, but he has a body from the third era? As for Li Ming Tuyi, Li Yu's eyes are strange. He doesn't think he is this person. Sir, you must have recognized the wrong person. Li Yu shook his head. Impossible. The Supreme Dragon Brilliant narrowed his eyes and suppressed the coldness in his eyes. The genes can be new, the species can be new, but I remember your soul characteristics very clearly. That is a soul that contains a large number of space-time fragments, from ancient times to the present. Except for him, even those quasi-gods and supremes who specialize in space-time have never had such a rich space-time fragment. Not only are there a lot, but they are so similar to his space-time fragments. Li Sun's heart moved slightly. Could it be that he absorbed those space-time memory fragments of Li Ming Tuyi? When he absorbed those memory fragments, he did feel a completely different feeling from the previous parallel memory fragments. In addition to the greater gain to the soul, on the other hand, it is also because these things contain a lot of knowledge of extremely profound space-time abilities. It was from the absorption of these memory fragments that his space-time ability began to sprout. After experiencing several large-scale absorptions of space-time memory fragments, he made rapid progress and grew rapidly in this field. If it weren't for that opportunity, even if he is not weak now, he certainly can't practice the immortal characteristics. After all, the prison-suppressing divine nature was also an important factor in his physical training to the extreme. Your Excellency is mistaken. I just accepted some of the legacy of the senior for some reason. Legacy? Long Hu Supreme shook his head. There is no point in talking more. Come and fight with me. If you can defeat me like before, then I will not pursue the past grudges for the time being. As he said this, his divine will flowed out of his body and turned into a red-gold color. A strong killing and fighting aura burst out. The surrounding space and time suddenly showed amazing distortion, forming large areas of distorted space and time fields. As soon as this space and time field appeared, the surrounding divine space and time energy and light suddenly began to bounce away from the surrounding area, and were directly bounced away by the distorted space and time field. It actually formed a place that was almost like a space and time zone. It was not fully formed yet, but it maintained a balance and prevented this space and time from completely collapsing. At the same time, the amazing dragon power and killing aura suddenly filled the entire void. The area of 10,000 meters in radius was instantly isolated, forming a unique battlefield. As the quasi-god Lianming was in a close position, he was immediately surrounded by this unique battlefield. His face changed drastically. Supreme Lord Long Wei, this is where Lord Suishin stores his thoughts? You are taking shelter here, but are you going to wantonly destroy the Suishin palace? As he spoke, he retreated violently and moved far away. However, when his body retreated to the edge, the distorted space-time field on the outside directly separated him, so that no matter how hard he tried, he could not continue to retreat. The whole person seemed to be spinning in place on the edge. The difference in strength between the quasi-god and the Supreme was so obvious. Although the era of quasi-god Lianming was earlier than that of Supreme Lord Long Wei, in terms of strength, they were completely opposite. Even though quasi-god Lianming was already a top quasi-god, the current Supreme Lord Long Wei was not even 1/10 as strong as him. Don't worry, Lianming, I know my limits. You stay outside and don't disturb me. And Li Ming Tuyi is reminiscing about the past. After several generations, the Supreme Long Wei stood still in the void, with his long tail swaying slightly behind him. Li Yu's eyes focused, noticing that when the Supreme Long Wei's long tail swayed, the time and space structure of that half-time and space zone became very sharp. He soared into the air, facing the Supreme Long Wei. Sir Long Wei, since you keep talking about grudges, but I don't know what these grudges are, oh, it seems that you, the unfaithful man, have forgotten them long ago. The cold light in the eyes of Supreme Long Wu suddenly grew stronger. Unfaithful person? Li Yu was speechless. This was inexplicable. Is it related to other people? Well, since you want to fight, then fight. Now, he is comparable to the demigod-level divine Mecha with his physical body alone, and his pure physical body is more than enough to sweep most quasi-gods. To fight against the Supreme, in addition to the original language, that is another trump card. It just so happens that he has not tried how much the strength can be increased in the state of divine armor. Pluto, come, He stretched out his hand and mobilized the air-suppressing membrane to form a huge blade with a depth of thousands of layers. Cut. The huge black curtain of the semi-forbidden domain directly cracked a wide hole. Immediately afterwards, a divine mecha shot over from a distance, tearing the air, tearing the divinity, and shuttling in an instant. Boom. A touch of pure black penetrated into the battlefield of the semi-forbidden domain, fell down with a bang, and then hung beside Li Yi. You don't mind me wearing armor, right, flamboyant? Supreme Longwei narrowed his eyes, raised his hand directly, and the killing aura suddenly attacked, but he was not prepared to give Li Yi the time to put on the armor of the divine mecha. Even if it was just an S level, the combat power blessing was not big for Supreme Longwei. But his semi-absolute battlefield was torn apart by Li Yi when he raised his hand. This face was very painful. How could he allow Li Mingtuyi to be so arrogant? Li Yi smiled slightly, stretched out his hand and waved again, and the Pluto mecha suddenly shrank and shot at him. At the same time, he activated the body of the ice god, and his body turned into virtual ice, and directly merged with a Pluto mecha that shrunk into the divine armor. Pluto divine armor, put on armor. At the same time, the strong killing aura stimulated by Supreme Longwei also suddenly killed and hit Li Yi. Boom. The amazing flames, like the light of a star, shot out suddenly. In the semi-absolute domain, it was as bright as day in an instant, and the darkness was completely suppressed. Only a slender figure of the black god remained, standing still. Inside the divine armor, Li Yi narrowed his eyes, feeling the great power contained in this killing aura, and the will to fight ignited in his heart. This opponent was not as strong as he looked. Chapter 471, Cut Time. When the Supreme Dragon Glory saw that his proud method did not work, he was also slightly surprised. Such a young body, but its strength recovered so quickly. Then I will not hold back. He stretched out his 5 fingers, and the energy of divine will swept through. In an instant, the surrounding killing aura became more and more intense, and a large space-time rift appeared in the entire semi-absolute domain. The entire space was like a huge glass with countless ice cracks knocked out. Immediately afterwards, 7 lifelike divine dragons roared and condensed, leaped out, and passed through the void cracks and blasted towards Li Yi. It was his signature skill, the Dragon Glory Fighting God formation. When it comes to the battles above the demigod and quasi-god level, more of the divinity is refined into divine will, so that it can more easily control the characteristics, and it also has extremely strong power. When it comes to the supreme stage, it begins to use divine will to drive more conceptual characteristics to affect real matter, affect the enemy, interfere with the enemy, and produce a stronger killing effect. However, the simple control of concepts is powerful, but it is too simple and direct, and it is easy to be cracked by the opponent. In turn, it was countered. Therefore, the supreme-level strongmen usually visualize the concept characteristics and use various combination techniques to achieve complex changes. At this stage, the more complex and changing big moves can be performed, the more difficult it is for the opponent to find flaws. Therefore, the more you can control the situation and defeat the opponent. On the contrary, there are fewer cases of pure struggle with strength and speed. Either you use a stronger concept level to crush directly. If you rely on complex concept characteristic control techniques to wear down the opponent's divine reserve and then take it down in one fell swoop. The Longhu Fighting God formation is the concept level ultimate move created by the Supreme Longhu. It contains the 4 major functions of trapping, locking, killing, and killing. At his peak, he could even use this move to fight with a dominant level strongman for more than 10 moves before he was defeated. Roar. In an instant, 7 giant dragons gathered from all directions within a kilometer around Li Yi. They are huge, with diagonal heads, coarse scales, colorful bodies, and solid skin and flesh. After traveling through those space-time cracks, they suddenly came to Li Yi without any injuries. The speed was amazing. Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly. These dragons contained extremely strong killing energy. Their essence should be the product of the second sublimation of the divine energy after the supreme level characteristics. They themselves contain the powerful killing power of cutting and breaking everything. They are the same as his prison suppressing divinity, which is both a product of characteristics and divinity. However, the opponent's accumulation is obviously deeper. In terms of the control effect of time and space, it may be far inferior to the prison suppressing divinity. But in terms of destructive power, it is far superior to the prison suppressing divinity. After all, It is the supreme level, so this strength is not bad. However, the most important thing is that the killing energy contained in these 7 dragons is dozens of times stronger than the previous attack from Long Hu Supreme. If he is hit head-on by these dragons, even he may not be able to hold on for long in this divine armor, and it will be exploded and restored to the state of divine Mecha. Can't block it hard. Then let's go with the old third axe. He stretched out his arm, like drawing a sword. Then, the air-suppressing membrane in his palm condensed, overlapping into 1,000 layers of space-time depth, turning into a blade, instantly extending 600 meters. With a swish, the air-suppressing blade flashed with colorful black light. Then, he turned around and swung. Cut. The air-suppressing blade was even more exquisite, cutting through those space-time cracks without any hindrance, splitting them, and then swiftly slashing at the killing dragon in front of him. Ling. The air-suppressing membrane with a depth of 1,000 layers cut into the long neck of the killing dragon, and it seemed to encounter an extremely sticky protective layer, and was stuck. A faint smile appeared on the corner of Long Hu Supreme's mouth. Using the space-time interlayer as a membrane to form a sharp blade, it is a good time-space control power. It's a pity that my Long Hu fighting god formation, the 7 dragons are mutually dependent, and the concepts are interconnected. It can't be solved by just cutting one of them. Even if you can cut through time and space, you can't cut through the concept of the connection of the 7 dragons, but the next moment bang. The killing dragon was just cut, and the blade was stuck. Suddenly, the killing dragon suddenly collapsed on the spot, turning into a large amount of killing energy, overflowing in the air. Long Hu Supreme's pupils shrank sharply. What did he do? Then, he observed the process of the killing energy escaping, and he seemed to understand something in his heart. It was the power of microscopic, turning the power of time and space into a nanoscale sharp blade, directly cutting off the internal structure of the dragon. In this way, even if the concepts of the 7 dragons are interconnected, they can share the time-space load, heavy blows, and slashes at will. But because the collapse is generated internally, it can't play the role of the 7 dragons' conceptual interconnection. It's an amazing method to turn the power of time and space into a tiny blade. However, when I see through your true and false, you will be nothing. Come again. A trace of excitement and bloodthirstiness flashed in Long Hu Supreme's eyes. It was this long-lost happiness. Liming 2ie, you are indeed worthy of my hard work for so many years of revival. Although one dragon is broken, the killing spirit is still there. Boom. Just when Li Yi slashed at the other dragons with his Henkoi blade, the scattered killing spirits suddenly gathered and turned into killing dragons, chasing from behind. Li Yi frowned. The characteristics of this killing spirit are really tricky. The Henkoi blade just killed another killing dragon, but in the blink of an eye, the previous one had condensed and recovered and killed him. For a while, at every moment, he had 5 killing dragons in an attacking posture at the same time. With his extraordinary fighting and prediction abilities, he spun his body rapidly, and the 600-meter sky suppression blade repeatedly slashed. Although he stabilized the situation, he could not make more space. The nano-space-time blades can't completely cut through these conceptual-level killing dragons. Yes, as long as there is still one that has not collapsed, the other 6 will recover immediately. In other words, as long as we kill them instantly at the same time, that's it. As he spun and slashed quickly, Li Yi's mind was racing. Then use this method. His body suddenly paused, and with a touch of his left hand, another sky suppression membrane was released. The moment this sky suppression membrane appeared, it showed a completely different change from the previous sky suppression blade. It suddenly expanded. Boom. In a flash, this sky suppression membrane stretched out the surrounding semi-space-time absolute domain, and took in the 7 killing dragons in one breath. Then, freeze time. Inside this huge sky suppression membrane, as if it was frozen, all the flows came to a standstill. 7 killing dragons, roaring fiercely, were fixed into sculptures. In the center, there was a slender black figure, and the sky-suppressing blade in his palm suddenly formed a spiral blade. Then, like a compressed spring, it spun open with a bang. Swish. Colorful black light flashed. The blade cut the 7 dragons at the same time, as if cutting tofu. The expanded sky-suppressing membrane, its power was exhausted, and it dissipated on the spot. The 7 dragons collapsed at the same time. Countless killing auras, like dimensionality reduction, scattered like snowflakes, and turned into ordinary divine energy. In the void, the black figure stood outside the countless divine energies that were dissipating like a tide, motionless. In his palm, the sky-suppressing blade emitted black light. Supreme Dragon Way, is my move okay? Chapter 472 Suppression. There was a flash of surprise, disbelief, and doubt in the eyes of the Supreme Dragon Glory. It finally turned into a faint smile. A beautiful slash, not bad. I didn't expect you to recover this level of space-time control so quickly. You still say you are not liming too ie. Since you broke my trick, I will release more combat power to show you what the Supreme is. As soon as the voice fell, the killing aura outside his body suddenly cleared, and he actually gathered it back to one point in an instant. At the same time, all matter and energy in the entire semi-absolute domain were completely emptied. The bottom layer of the space-time structure in the semi-absolute domain maintained the last trace of balance. Then, bang! The amazing divine flame suddenly erupted. Like an exploding supernova, it swept in all directions. Li Yi's body did not move, and the air-suppressing membrane outside his body emerged to resist the shock wave compressed and evolved by the killing aura. He looked suspicious. It was not that the shock wave was too strong, but that it was too weak. Just now, the so-called big talk of Long Way Supreme was so loud, so why is the move he is using now so ordinary? No, it is even worse than before. However, after this wave of shock waves, Long Way Supreme's existence suddenly disappeared. It disappeared from Li Yi's perception all of a sudden. Moreover, it actually disappeared from the dimension of time and space. How did he do this? Is this his hidden move? Is it a conceptual move that is higher than the current environment? Or is it a big move launched with the help of the semi-absolute domain? Li Yi narrowed his eyes slightly, activated the nano-vision, and scanned the subtle changes in the surroundings. Suddenly, his body deflected backwards, and the Zhenkuang blade in his palm shrank to a length of 100 meters, and suddenly swung it down in front of him. Cut. The colorful black light flashed. The Zhenkuang blade cut something, but the moment it cut, the thing suddenly disappeared. Li Yi's heart moved slightly, sensing the flow of the surrounding nano-level materials, and the Zhenkuang blade cut forward. There was another burst of flames. The Zhenkuang blade cut something, but the thing disappeared again. It can be hidden at the time and space level, but not at the nano level. What kind of method is this? No, strictly speaking, it can also be hidden at the nano level, but it will leave a tiny trace. Otherwise, if the trace is obvious, Li Yi would have found Long Way Supreme long ago. While thinking, suddenly, boom! A shocking force suddenly penetrated and hit the air-suppressing membrane outside his body. This force is very shocking, and it contains a huge force that is much more ferocious than Li Yi's current state of divine armor. Not only that, in addition to the power, it also contains a highly condensed killing force, which broke through the defense of the air-suppressing membrane and penetrated into the body. However, fortunately, the air-suppressing membrane intercepted most of the power. When the remaining power came, it had been resolved by his Hades God armor. The last small part was directly dispersed by his 0.5 nanometer precision. But immediately afterwards, another surging force immediately connected to his side. Li Yi's mind moved, and a new air-suppressing membrane suddenly appeared outside his body. Now, he can easily release a 1,000-layered sky suppression membrane. The strength is naturally extraordinary. If he defends with all his strength and then launches a burst skill, he can even release more than 2,000 layers of sky suppression membrane. However, this move consumes a lot of energy for him at present. So he still uses the 1,000-layer structure as the main method. However, this newly emerged sky suppression membrane can still only block part of the power, and the rest is borne by the divine armor and subtle strength. This guy is very powerful. The key is that it is currently impossible to determine what his foundation is. If it happens a few more times, Li Yi knows that his defense line will definitely be broken. Due to the lack of information, it is difficult to predict. Li Yi reacted quickly, and his thoughts flashed quickly. Should I use the original language? No, it's not the last moment yet. This person's name is Long Way. Long has seen him, but Wei has not. Could it be that the method he just used is a time-related characteristic, or is it a light-related characteristic? Because time and light have a high degree of overlap, he transformed himself into a sequence body? For example, Long Way's body, then, he transformed himself into light, hiding in the time of the space-time structure, and deceived me. Suddenly, Li Yi's mind flashed with lighting, and he had some guesses. However, guesses are guesses, and they still need to be verified. The air-suppressing membrane in his palm suddenly shrank, and then exploded like an explosion. It was still the old third axe, magnifying the space-time interlayer. Then, time it. In an instant, everything around him stopped. Even the tyrannical force that was bombarding him stopped. Like freezing, he hovered on one side. He couldn't stay still for that long at present, but this little time should be enough for now. Quickly scan the whole scene, focusing on observing the inconsistencies of the light. Perfection level trace identification, start. Brain Transcendence Technique 2.0, start. In an instant, Li Yu's state improved rapidly. The particles of light are very small, and even the perception of femtometer accuracy may not be able to see clearly. But at this moment, what Li Yu is looking for is just the slight interference of light on the surrounding environment. Therefore, the 0.5 nanometer level can barely be found. But it takes time 6 seconds, it's gone in a flash. Found it. At this time, the time for the air-suppressing membrane to stay fixed is also almost at its limit. He immediately shook his body and activated the body of the ice god. Activating the Hades armor, swoosh. In an instant, his entire body, along with the pitch-black Hades armor, turned into virtual ice, and suddenly flashed in the void. At this moment, he instantly accelerated to stay close to the speed of light. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. Then, a very subtle, imperceptible, discordant light passed by. Crack. Suddenly, the light that was passed by was frozen by the conceptual freezing characteristics of the prison-suppressing divinity, and the freezing intensity was suddenly increased. The next moment, the state of the Supreme Longway's body in the form of light was reflected by this freezing, showing the characteristics of his soul and body. Bang! At the same time, the time fixed by the suppressing space membrane also began to flow again. However, at this time, the Supreme Longway did not seem to be completely frozen. The light he turned into suddenly shook, and it seemed that he was about to explode from the ice. But the next moment, a 1,800-layer suppressing space blade had already slashed down. Swish! Cut it in half with one stroke. The Supreme Longway's body was instantly split into two. Li Yu took advantage of the situation to strengthen the suppressing space membrane and covered the two bodies. At this time, the suppressing space membrane he activated had changed its function from cutting time and space to blocking the time and space sandwich. It enclosed 3 time and space sandwiches inside and outside, each with more than 1,000 layers of structure, squeezing each other and overlapping each other, forming a more powerful embedded blocking structure. In the time and space sandwich, the upper body of the Supreme Longway had returned to its original state and sent an impact to the time and space sandwich. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473. In the space-time layer, the huge force of the repeated collision of the Supreme Dragon Brilliance came. Li Yu frowned slightly. This guy is quite fierce. In this space-time layer, the unique repressive power of the prison godhood is contained. The power of the ice prison can greatly weaken the divinity, soul, and body of a strong man. Moreover, he used the super-freezing power of the ice god body and the Hades armor to freeze him. In this case, let's give him the characteristics of time, and the world will change. Immediately, Li Yu's mind moved and stimulated the effect of rapid passage of time. Originally, before he communicated with the God of Years, he had already mastered the ability to control time acceleration. However, this move is mainly effective against strong people who are 1 or 2 levels weaker than him, or who are more weakened. And now, after communicating and learning with the God of Years, his space-time cognitive ability has greatly increased. Therefore, even if he is facing the Supreme, he has the confidence to cut off a lot of his life. Boom! The space-time layer soon produced a violent and imperceptible vibration. That was the overclocked fluctuations caused by the high-speed flow of space and time. In just a blink of an eye, the lifespan of Longway Supreme was reduced by at least 10,000 years. He was clearly protected by a highly condensed killing aura outside his body, but it could not stop the evolution of the years at all. Because he was in Li Yu's wave of space-time interlayer, he was in a brand new space-time. In this space-time, Li Yu was the controller of the rules. Unless Longwei Supreme could master the means to open up another space-time interlayer, and use the space-time interlayer to fight against the space-time interlayer. But obviously, as a Supreme who cultivated in the early stage, Longwei Supreme had strong lethality and defense-breaking power, but he did not focus on space-time characteristics. Among the conceptual characteristics he mastered, only the light part was related to time. But his Longwei body had just been frozen and broken by Li Yi. At this moment, how could he transform into glow again and hide in time in a hurry? Buzz! Li Yi took advantage of the situation and strengthened the intensity of the activation of the time characteristics again. At this moment, after cutting off so much of the opponent's lifespan, his prison-suppressing divine power was almost at the bottom. After all, his total amount of divinity has not yet reached the level of a demigod. But Li Yi did not hesitate, and directly punched the space-time interlayer. It was with his subtle power, combined with a power comparable to the Supreme after the divine armor, combined with a small part of the prison-suppressing divine power, that the space-time changes in the space-time interlayer were forcibly accelerated. This was also a new move that could only be played with his current physical body, subtle realm, and space-time cognition. Using the physical body to manipulate space-time. Although a small part of the prison-suppressing divine power is still needed as a handle to control space-time, it is his physical body and subtle power that exert more power. It is equivalent to directly converting the power of the physical body into the power of space-time. Boom. 10,000 years of lifespan, and then cut. Even Longwei Supreme, who has a lifespan of at least hundreds of thousands, has been revived many times and consumed a lot of it. Being cut by 20,000 years is not a small number. In an instant, visible signs of decay appeared on the face and body of Longwei Supreme. There was a hint of fear in his eyes. Obviously, he realized that he could barely hold on at the beginning when his strength had not yet recovered to its peak. But as time went by, he would inevitably become more and more unable to bear this terrifying characteristic that could cut off his lifespan. Moreover, when he saw that the other party could actually manipulate time and space with his physical body, he knew that he could not beat the other party in terms of endurance. Because although his physical body was strong, he could not manipulate time and space with his physical body. In addition to making it more resistant to beatings and having stronger vitality, it had no other use in a battle of this level. He opened his mouth to call for a stop to the battle, but when he opened his mouth, he remembered that he had initiated the battle. Moreover, judging from the other party's appearance, he did not want to hold back at all. He gritted his teeth and realized that the situation had reached a most dangerous moment in the blink of an eye. He had to release all his strength. His peak strength could naturally be used again. However, his recovery time was not long, and in his current state, it would not take long at all. One moment, just release it for a moment. He gritted his teeth, fiddled with his long tail, shook it in front of him, and cut it off with one palm. Swish! The broken end of this long tail, which was thick in front and pointed in the back and covered with scales, immediately leaked a large amount of rich green blood. From the broken end of his tailbone, another snake-like body the size of a fist suddenly emerged, opened its mouth and swallowed a large amount of blood and energy that escaped from the space-time layer, and its body swelled like a ball. Then, bang! His flesh suddenly burst out with strange light, and then exploded. The powerful power of the supreme flesh self-detonation blasted the space-time layer in an instant. The violent space-time shock wave, carrying an astonishing murderous aura, swept in front of him. This explosion engulfed a large amount of space-time power in Li Yi's space-time layer, and the space-time explosion force formed was by no means comparable to the previous attack of Longwei Supreme. Li Yi realized the horror of this wave of explosion, and his body retreated violently, and the air-suppressing membrane outside his body emerged to resist this space-time shock wave. At this time, he noticed a tiny snake-like figure, taking advantage of the amazing speed of the space-time shock wave, and suddenly crossed the space-time semi-space-time absolute domain and fled into the distance. On the other side, the quasi-god Lian Ming, who was at the edge of the semi-absolute domain, was in trouble. Even Li Yi did not dare to confront this powerful space-time shock wave head-on, and needed to keep a distance. Even if he was far away, more than 10,000 meters away. But for the space-time shock wave, the attenuation of this 10,000 meters is basically very small. Ah! Damn! Long way your mother, the quasi-god Lian Ming roared in shock and anger. Boom! The space-time shock wave instantly engulfed the green-armored man. After a while, The semi-absolute domain began to slowly return to the empty state in front of the Suishan Palace due to the lack of the maintenance of the Supreme Long Way. Liu reached out and grabbed a crystal tailbone connected by joints. This thing is the long tail of the Supreme Long Way. When he escaped from the golden cicada shell, he should not be able to take this thing with him, and can only swallow the blood and ki to leave. The remaining part was naturally destroyed by the space-time shockwave. However, the coccyx seemed to be unusually hard. It could withstand such a strong space-time shockwave. As a former senior supreme being, he really had some powerful skills. Liu waved the coccyx, and the space-time was directly cut. Hiss, this is quite sharp, much easier than my space-suppressing membrane. Well, this should be a material that naturally possesses the properties of space-time. It can be considered to be forged into a handy divine treasure. Liu nodded slightly. Although this Enpakuto in the divine mecha state is not bad, it cannot be upgraded after all. After the Hades mecha was upgraded to S level, the previous divine weapon could no longer be used. But the one in front of him could support most of his subsequent fighting time. Then, he looked at the edge of the semi-absolute area, the group of residual flesh and blood that was like a firefly, emitting a faint light. Chapter 474, Reverse Time. Liu observed the shimmering flesh. This should be the dying struggle of the quasi-god Lian Ming. He protected the brain that can carry the soul until the end. Unfortunately, he still died, completely. The space-time shockwave superimposed most of the power of Liu and Long Way Supreme, and exploded in the most tyrannical way. Even if it was replaced by a supreme-level strong man, it might not be able to stop it. Well, I just got an inspiration, let's see if I can save it. Liu approached and carefully observed the genetic information left on the last piece of flesh and blood of the quasi-god Lian Ming. He should have majored in the sequence of the god of life, and the vitality in his flesh and blood is not bad. In terms of lifespan alone, he should be considered long-lived among quasi-gods. Liu estimated that this guy should have lived for another 300,000 years, which is already beyond the life limit of ordinary quasi-gods. In addition to his qualifications from the first year to the present, this guy not only relied on the god of years to increase his lifespan, but also should have been related to his major in the sequence of the god of life. No wonder he is from the first era, but he looks so young. Although he is not a top quasi-god, his qualifications should be enough. It would be a pity to let him be affected and die like this. Liu still has many questions to ask. Immediately, he activated the air suppression membrane to form a space-time sandwich to wrap the piece of meat. Then, he tried to reverse time in a small range. In theory, only by mastering the three major space-time characteristics of years, time, and light, and integrating them, can the ability to reverse time and space be realized. Although Liu has absorbed a lot of space-time knowledge and has a high level of cognition, he can even use his body to fiddle with time and space. But he has not majored in any of the three major time characteristics. He just uses the special nature of the prison-suppressing divinity to realize many operations of manipulating time and space. After all, the essence of the prison-suppressing divinity is the fusion divinity formed by the three celestial god sequences of the King of Heaven, the King of the Underworld, and Gaia, with the space-time characteristics as the adhesive. It is the refinement and fusion of the characteristics related to time and space in each sequence. Moreover, it is not the way of the heavenly fusion nucleus. In essence, his fusion is naturally more advanced. It will also continue to upgrade as his cognition of time and space improves. On the contrary, those divine powers that had been integrated since the heavenly position were directly fixed and did not have the growth potential like him. Therefore, Liu's prison suppression divine power can simulate the three major space-time characteristics by relying on the various types of space-time memories absorbed before. Reversing a few seconds and returning the quasi-god Lian Ming to the time before his soul completely died should be enough. After that, other means can be used to revive him. He first fixed the time in the space-time sandwich to facilitate the operation later. Then, the prison suppression divine power outside Liu's body continued to flow and converged on the small space-time sandwich in front of him. Bless it and try to push space-time in the opposite direction. After a few seconds, he frowned slightly, because he realized that the total amount of prison suppression divine power was insufficient at the moment. In order to reduce the lifespan of Long Way Supreme, the prison suppression divine power had basically reached the bottom. Even if it was restored after a while, the amount was not large. Liu did not hesitate and immediately withdrew the prison suppression divine power. Instead, he punched the space-time sandwich. Bang! 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 3.2 Explosive skill, activate. Liu wanted to try to reverse time, so he did not hold back and activated his other trump card. Boom! Hundreds of thousands of meters away from the semi-absolute domain, the demigods and quasi-gods who had successfully resisted the space-time shock wave from the aftermath of the space-time shock wave had just come out of their defensive state. Not long after they breathed a sigh of relief, they were shocked to find that an astonishing aura was coming from the semi-absolute domain again. Everyone was shocked. Is this young genius of the new era so fierce? Not only did he beat the Supreme Long Way, but he also had a reserved aura in his current state. Moreover, was he trying to save the quasi-god Lianming with that action? When they just survived the aftermath, they noticed the state of the quasi-god Lianming and mourned for him, feeling a bit like the death of the rabbit and the grief of the fox. After all, surviving from such a long time ago to the present is considered to be a long life. But in the aftermath of the battle between two supreme-level powerhouses, he couldn't even hold on. Is the gap in strength so big? Tuanguan quasi-god sighed and said, "It seems that I can't stay in this era any longer. I'd better go to the next era and wait for a good time to revive." Tuanguan quasi-god, why do you have to do this? Anyway, we have the protection of Lord Sushin. Except for accidents like today, we can still live in peace, right? Someone advised. That's right, we have already spent a lot of life to revive in this era. If we don't gain anything and just sleep like this, what's the point of reviving this time? Someone else joined in. Yes, our goal is to seek further opportunities before the great disaster, intercept the luck in the great era, and seek the opportunity to prove the supreme. If we miss this time, the next disaster will be more severe, and we will have less space to control. After everyone's persuasion, Tongguan quasi-god couldn't help but hesitate. Indeed. In the days after the disaster, everything was destroyed. It stands to reason that the strong will not exist. It seems easier to be promoted. But in fact, it is the opposite. On the one hand, because the real strong, except for a few unlucky ones, most have their own ways to survive or revive. Therefore, the promotion opportunities corresponding to the concept sequence and time and space sequence will still be blocked by the first supreme beings who have achieved enlightenment, and the later ones will still find it difficult to make any progress. On the other hand, after the disaster, various concepts in time and space-related cosmic laws will be more difficult to detect and comprehend. On the other hand, although the approach of the disaster is a great disaster, before this, it is also the time when the various time and space and concept loads are the lightest, the easiest to comprehend, and the easiest to promote. Therefore, this is also the reason why most strong people, even if they want to revive, will choose to do so thousands of years, 1,000 years, 500 years, etc. before the disaster. Because only waking up at these times will be useful for promotion. At other times, there is no benefit except enjoyment. Therefore, all the strong people who are determined to live a few more years and pursue a higher lifespan will not easily give up the opportunity to revive before each disaster. And this trend has basically appeared since the second era, and it accumulates more and more in each era. The closer the disaster is to come, the more strong people will revive and thoroughly participate in various struggles and opportunities in the world. A few hundred years before the disaster, once the strange strong men revealed their tracks in advance, they would be targeted first and robbed of all kinds of secret treasures, opportunities, and key intelligence. This is the tide of revival. The interstellar chaos lasted for at least 100 years. Before each disaster, the masters, supremes, quasi-gods, and demigods, who have entered the realm of God, are the most active. Only after entering the realm of God, are they qualified to use various means to sleep. Otherwise, the damage to the soul caused by the passage of time alone will cause non-gods to die quietly and sleep. And the strong who have entered the realm of God can use God's will to protect their souls. Well, then I will persist. Tuanguan quasi-god sighed and responded to the persuasion of other quasi-gods. On the other side, although Liu was a little far away from this group of demigods, he was in a high realm at the moment, so he could easily hear their conversation. He also figured out what the tide of revival was. Not only that, as he unleashed his 3.2 burst skill, his physical strength was raised again. The tiny step of using physical strength to forcibly push time and space to reverse was finally successful. And then, boom! In an instant, at the moment of time and space reversal, all living beings couldn't help but raise their heads and look into the depths of the starry sky. Because they all heard a magnificent roar from the depths of the universe in time and space. Not only that, the entire universe seemed to be undergoing some kind of earth-shaking huge changes. For a moment, countless strong men woke up one after another. Some concentrated their divine will and observed from afar. Some activated their portable divine armor, or activated the original language learned from various prehistoric ancient creatures to perceive the changes in the depths of the universe. Chapter 475 Tracking. After successfully reversing 1 second, Li soon also successfully reversed the next few seconds. When Li continued to reverse the time to 5 seconds ago, the weak soul of the quasi-god Lian Ming suddenly came alive and had some will. Li stopped pushing. Because he felt a magnificent roar of time and space, which was transmitted back and forth in the depths of the universe in time, and the movement was very loud. This sound, won't it resound throughout the universe? At this time, Li felt an extremely powerful gaze, casting a glance at him. Just a glance brought a pressure that seemed to be real. Boom. In an instant, the faces of the demigods and quasi-gods outside the semi-absolute circle changed drastically. Some weaker demigods couldn't help but kneel down. This was dozens of times stronger than Longhu Supreme, and it was a very terrifying and powerful sense of oppression. Although it was much weaker than Sui Shin, it was also the top one. Li Sun's heart sank slightly. Unexpectedly, the movement caused by reversing time and space would be so big. His cognition of time and space was considered to be extremely high, and he also absorbed a lot of nutrition from the memory fragments. However, the ability to reverse time and space had never appeared in these memories. Therefore, he did not expect that after only reversing for a few seconds, the time and space of the entire universe were roaring. Not only was time and space roaring, but because of its huge movement, even all levels of matter were producing extremely shocking tremors. At this time, the sight that was cast on him was still getting stronger. Even Li soon felt as if there was something huge on his shoulders, pressing on him. There seemed to be some naked malice in his sight. Or greed. What does this guy want to do? Is he coveting the ability to reverse time and space? It's obviously the territory of the God of Years. How dare he be so unscrupulous? Thinking of this, Li's heart moved slightly, and he reached out to untie the time and space layer that fixed time, and punched the quasi-god Lian Ming. This punch hit the body gene of the quasi-god Lian Ming, stimulating his own vitality and self-recovery. He left another message to the quasi-god Lian Ming, asking him to find him in the depths of the Sushin Palace after he was revived successfully. After completing this step, he activated the body of the Thunder God, and his entire divine armored body flashed and disappeared from the spot. Whoosh! At this moment, he seemed to have reached the speed of light. The next moment, his body flashed and appeared in the depths of the Sushin Palace, floating and slowly landing. At this point, the sight really did not continue to explore. Very good, although that guy is bold, he would not dare to watch casually in the depths of the Sushin Palace. It can be seen that although this guy covets the ability to reverse time and space, but Li knew that he should have left a mark in the eyes of that level of existence. As long as that existence can master the original language with a certain strength, or has other dimensional upgrade capabilities. This kind of recognition should be so detailed that it can recognize traces of time and space. A species exists in time, and there must be traces in time and space. And a sufficiently powerful top-level strongman can naturally complete these searches. And soon found Li Yi. Perhaps this strongman does not have this ability yet, but just in case, it is better to slightly change my space-time traces. This is naturally not difficult for Li Yi. If other ordinary supreme beings or quasi-gods were targeted by such beings, it would not take long before they would be found. But Li Yi is different. His space-time cognition is enough to complete sufficiently detailed self-modification. After a while, he completed the modification of his own space-time traces. However, after completing it, he was still not very satisfied. It still doesn't work. Maybe there are some omissions that I can't detect. It must be modified more finely to ensure that there is no mistake. Li couldn't help but think of his other perfect skill, trace recognition. To this day, his perfect skill trace recognition tracking has been perfected for too long. After the breakthrough in the deciphering skill, he realized what the breakthrough direction of other skills is. Originally, he planned to leave the Sushin ruins as soon as possible after completing the retreat to support the frontline Star Clan battlefield. But now, he decided to stay in the Suishin ruins for another day or two to break through the skills of tracking and trace identification to the next level. At the next level, with the cooperation of Wan Yi, his own space-time cognition should be enough to complete a thorough transformation, so that those strong men can't recognize him, and can't find him from a distance by following other traces. Of course, there is no need to change his appearance. Because for the top strong men, what they see is not so much the appearance, but the inherent characteristics and traces produced in the space-time level activities. What high-level life forms see is completely different from ordinary life. This point has been understood since Liu communicated with Suishin. For skills like non-combat and divine manipulation, the key to breaking through to perfection is to comprehend the corresponding conceptual characteristics. My 1A is essentially a sublimation through the accumulation of past deciphering, plus the translation of the original language. My tracking and trace recognition have also accumulated enough memory fragments. What is lacking now is the process of comprehending the concepts, or using certain means to sublimate. Traces are essentially a kind of information, but unlike 1I, the information obtained by trace recognition and tracking is equivalent to non-linear information, and what 1A deciphers is essentially linear information. This is language, which is information with continuous meaning, and non-linear information is equivalent to the ripples caused by a stone falling into a pool, the vibration of a fist hitting the ground, and the outline of footprints falling on the ground. It is the physical impact of one whole on another. What I want to change is the traces of my existence itself on time and space, so I must upgrade trace recognition to perfection, so that I have the ability to judge the subtle traces of deeper time and space. If 1I and trace recognition are combined, perhaps a stronger ability can be developed, but as for now, I am not in a hurry to combine the two. In this case, let's use trace recognition to try to identify the impact of the original language on the material world after it is activated, and see if it can be sublimated or absorbed into higher-level memory fragments. With a flash of thought, Liu began to try. Now the entire ruins of the years are full of traces of changes caused by his communication with the God of Years. Using this as material to speculate, even if the trace recognition ability cannot be sublimated, I believe that the dream plane will give him a good feedback. In a blink of an eye, time passed. A day later, the quasi-god Lian Ming successfully resurrected and came to the depths of the God of Years palace to look for Li Yi. Then, he saw a mysterious figure that seemed to exist in a phantom. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.